Chapter 108. Qing Prefecture, State of Jiang. Sanglan Academy. Sanglan Academy was in ruins. Not only had the original hall of Sanglan been destroyed, but even half of Mount Sanglan had been destroyed. Yi Xian led Mo Yunqi and the others to the ruins. Yi Xian walked into the ruins and searched. It didn't take long for him to find something. A wine gourd. Old Man Ji's wine gourd. Mo Yunqi and Bai Zai's eyes instantly moistened when they saw the wine gourd. Ji Anji lowered his head slightly and clenched his fists tightly. Yi Xian held the wine gourd tightly, and a short moment later, he hung it on his waist. After that, he gazed at the ruins in front of him, fell silent for a moment, and then knelt down. He knelt. Besides kneeling for his younger sister, Yi Xian had never knelt to anyone in his entire life. He'd first come to Sanglan Academy because Old Man Ji had saved his younger sister, but he'd truly fallen in love with this place later on. There was no scheming and no life and death here. He'd experienced warmth that he hadn't even experienced in the Yi family in Qingcheng. Meanwhile, Mo Yunqi and the others walked over to Yi Xian's side and slowly knelt down. They bowed deeply 3 times to the ruins in front of them. Yi Xian held the wine gourd tightly, and his eyes were filled with determination. Old Man Ji, I'll take good care of them, and I'll bring back the students from the Shao Dao in Song Mountain. In the future, I'll take them to the Central Divine Prefecture's General Institute to fulfill your final wish. As soon as he finished speaking, he stood up. Right at this moment, an unexpected change suddenly occurred. Yi Xian's expression changed drastically without any warning, and he instantly fell to the ground. At the same time, his body twitched incessantly as if he was having an epileptic fit. Seeing this scene, the expressions of Mo Yunqi and the other 2 changed greatly. The 3 of them hurriedly surrounded Yi Xian. At this moment, Yi Xian's facial features were already twisted together, and he was completely deformed. The 3 of them were horrified when they saw this. Ji Anji hurriedly said, "I'll get a doctor." She turned around and was about to leave when Yi Xian suddenly pulled her back. Yi Xian said with a trembling voice, No need, I will be affected by the backlash, you guys guard me, wait for a while." Ah. Backlash. The mysterious woman had warned him not to rashly activate the World Prison Pagoda, but he had already activated it. The moment he activated it, he was already prepared to die. Not only that, but every time the mysterious woman attacked, it could be said to be an extremely great burden to the World Prison Tower. In the end, this burden would be borne by him, the owner of the World Prison Tower. Since there was no backlash earlier, it was obvious that the mysterious woman had forcefully suppressed it. Now, right now, he felt as if his entire body was being torn apart. This kind of tearing pain was truly unbearable. Activating the World Prison Pagoda, coupled with the mysterious woman's attack, these 2 backlashes added together, even he couldn't stand it anymore. On the ground, Yi Xian's entire body twitched ceaselessly. Not only that, his entire body seemed as if it had suffered a heavy blow, and it was covered in cracks as if it would shatter at any moment. It was truly terrifying. Seeing Yi Xian's current state, Mo Yunqi and the other 2's faces were filled with shock. The 3 of them were currently at a loss. Yi Xian curled up into a ball, and his body was still twitching ceaselessly. At this time, how much he wished that he would faint. But he knew that he couldn't faint. If he fainted now, he might really never wake up again. He couldn't die. He still had to find his sister, he still had to find Enlanxiu, he still had to rebuild Sanglan Academy, he still had, endure. He had to endure. Yi Xian's arms were crossed, and his entire body twitched violently on the ground. At the side, Mo Yunqi suddenly sat paralyzed on the ground. Looking at Yi Xian on the ground, Mo Yunqi's tears suddenly flowed down. He wiped the tears off his face. "I'm really F*King weak, F*King, I'm just an idiot, a useless idiot." Bai Zai's fists were tightly clenched, and his face was expressionless. His body was trembling. At the side, Ji Anji looked at Yi Xian. She was expressionless, but in her eyes, tears kept flowing. Now, there were only 4 of them left in Sanglan Academy. If anything happened to Yi Xian, after an unknown period of time, the sky had already turned white. The sky was bright. At this time, Yi Xian's body gradually calmed down. Mo Yunqi and the other 2 had been guarding, and the 3 of them did not leave even a step. At noon, Yi Xian's fingers moved slightly. Seeing this scene, Ji Anji hurriedly walked to Yi Xian's side. She grabbed Yi Xian's arm, and softly said, "Ru, how is it?" Yi Xian slowly stood up, and he slowly opened his eyes. The next moment, his body stiffened. "Is the sky not bright yet?" Hearing this, Ji Anji's body trembled slightly. She looked at Yi Xian's eyes, and at this moment, Yi Xian's eyes were actually empty. It was completely empty. Mo Yunqi and Bai Zhe were also stunned. Yi Xian rubbed his eyes, and then he fell silent. It was not that the sky was not bright, but he was blind. At this time, the mysterious woman's voice suddenly sounded in Yi Xian's mind. "Your physical body is strong enough to withstand the backlash of this pagoda, but your eyes are the weakest part of your body, and your eyes are not able to withstand the power of this pagoda's backlash. The reason why I did not make a move was because if I did, would have to suppress this pagoda, and if I forcibly suppressed it, the seal of this pagoda would probably shatter in an instant. Not only would the seal shatter, the power of this pagoda might also instinctively resist me. If that happened, the first to die would be you." Yi Xian was silent for a moment, and then he grinned. "It's nothing." The mysterious woman said again, "Even if your eyeballs are gone, you still have a sword. In the future, use the sword as your eyes, and use Swordsman to cultivate a pair of sword eyes." "Sword eyes?" Yi Xian was stunned, and asked in his heart, "What do you mean?" The mysterious woman spoke indifferently. "You've always used the sword as your body, so it's very normal for you to cultivate a pair of sword eyes. Use your heart as a sword, and the sword as your eyes. Simply speaking, in the future, you won't use your eyes to look at the world, but your heart. Only when you look at the world with your heart will you be able to see its essence. Of course, you haven't come into contact with that level yet, but you can start moving towards that level. Moreover, the sword eyes are sword eyes, so in the future, your eyes will be able to kill as well. Of course, the precondition is that you're able to cultivate it." Yi Xian spoke in a low voice, "You still need to ask me." The mysterious woman said, "It might be very painful." "Possible." Yi Xian laughed bitterly. What the mysterious woman said was possible. Then it wasn't possible, and it should be extremely painful. Yi Xian shook his head. "Senior, do you think that I'm afraid of pain?" The mysterious woman fell silent for a moment, and then she said, "I'll pass down a cultivation technique to you later, and you can cultivate according to it. Moreover, it will affect your image if you don't have eyes. In the future, once you're accomplished in your cultivation, you can go look for a pair of eyes that can endure your sword, like a true dragon or spirit phoenix. They're pretty as well. In any case, you can look for them yourself in the future. True dragon or spirit phoenix." Yi Xian was dumbfounded. Aren't they divine beasts of the heavens and the earth of legend? Look for their eyes? Go and die. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman said, "There's one more thing. You have to find a second Tao law, and perfecting this pagoda with a Tao law will mean that it'll be much easier for me. Moreover, you have to work hard to improve your own strength as well. Remember, your enemies aren't just outside, but inside as well." Yi Xian nodded, "Understood." The mysterious woman said, "I need to rest. Don't disturb me if there's nothing important, and don't activate this pagoda at will either. This pagoda isn't something that you can activate right now. Once you do, those things that are suppressed by this pagoda will be extremely happy." Yi Xian spoke in a low voice, "Senior, are you all right?" The mysterious woman said indifferently, "Worry more about yourself." As soon as she finished speaking, a lot of information suddenly appeared in Yi Xian's mind. A lot. Soul-setting sword. Sword eye technique. A cultivation method and a sword technique. After a while, Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. Actually, he was still very lucky. With the mysterious woman's help, he had taken many fewer detours than others. In terms of cultivation methods and sword techniques, he didn't feel any pressure. Unfortunately, every time the mysterious woman made a move, he would end up in a miserable state. Now, he really didn't dare to let the mysterious woman make a move. He was blind this time, but who knew what would happen next time? Moreover, he could clearly feel that there were many dangerous existences in this prison pagoda. This was the feeling that the prison pagoda gave him. If the mysterious woman made a move 2 more times, the Tao laws in this pagoda would probably shatter before it could gather qi. At that time, the first person to die would be him. The mysterious woman's move was a good thing for him, but it was actually a huge hidden danger. Moreover, he didn't want to test the mysterious woman. He knew that if he had the slightest reliance, the mysterious woman would definitely be the first to give up on him. Previously, if he didn't want to use his life to activate this prison pagoda, the mysterious woman might really not make a move. He wasn't anyone to the mysterious woman, so he really didn't have the qualifications to let her help him. He still had to rely on himself. His own strength was the way of the king. At this moment, the spirit elegant sword in Yi Xian's body suddenly trembled slightly, as though it was expressing something. Yi Xian opened his palm, and the spirit elegant sword appeared in his palm. Although he couldn't see the spirit elegant sword, he could feel it. Holding the spirit elegant sword, Yi Xian's lips curled up slightly. From now on, you are my eyes. At this moment, Mo Yinchi suddenly walked in front of Yi Xian. He glanced at Yi Xian. Bandit Yi Xian shook his head. You don't have to comfort me. I'm fine. Mo Yinchi and the other 2 were silent. Yi Xian said softly, now, only the 4 of us are left in Sanglan Academy. As for me, I want to rebuild Sanglan Academy. I want it to become the strongest academy in the Azure province. No, I want Sanglan Academy to become the best academy in the Azure firmament world. As he spoke, he turned to face the ruins. Elder Ji, watch from the heavens. I, Yi Xian, will do what I say. I want the headquarters of Sanglan Academy in the Divine Central Continent to know that if they look down on us today, in the future, Yi Xian will make it so that they can't hope to reach up to us. Chapter 109. Rebuild Sanglan Academy. In Yi Xian chose a new location. It wasn't far from the original Kanglan Point. It was located on a mountain not far from the back of the mountain. The mountain wasn't high, only about 100 feet. In front of the mountain, there was a huge waterfall. Countless streams of water poured down from the top of the mountain. It looked quite spectacular. With the help of the Drunken Immortal Inn and the Jiang country's royal family, the construction of the Kanglan Academy went very smoothly. On the mountain, nearly 1,000 people were busy every day. As for the materials, almost all of them were bought by the Drunken Immortal Inn. This time, the Drunken Immortal Inn and the Jiang country's imperial family had spent a lot of money to rope in Yi Xian and the others. Yi Xian naturally wouldn't refuse the Drunken Immortal Inn and the imperial family's attempts to rope him in. One more friend is always better than one more enemy. Moreover, Sanglan Academy would still be in the country of Jiang in the future and would require the care of these 2 forces. At the top of the mountain, in front of a boulder, Yi Xian's group of 4 gathered together. In front of the 4 of them, there was a large pile of things. Most of these things were supreme spiritual weapons, and there were even bright rank items. These things were obtained when they cleaned up the corpses of the Dharma realm powerhouses. In addition to these, there were also some that they obtained in the secret realm. A lot. In any case, the 4 of them could be said to be as rich as a nation. Yi Xian glanced at the treasures in front of him. You can choose first. Keep the ones that you can use for yourselves. As for the rest, we'll keep some for ourselves. The rest can be auctioned off for money. Money. What was the most important thing for the reconstruction of Azure Billow Academy? Naturally, it was money. The thought of all kinds of expenses gave him a headache. Mo Yunqi and the other two looked at each other. In the end, the three of them shook their heads. Mo Yunqi said, "Leave them for the construction academy." Yi Xian shook his head. "Right now, there are only 4 of us in Azure Billow Academy. Our battle prowess cannot be weak. The 3 of you will each pick a defensive item." Mo Yunqi and the other two looked at each other. Finally, Mo Yunqi nodded. "I'll go first then." As he spoke, he waved his right hand and a pair of black boots appeared in his hand. Light rank lower grade. Mo Yunqi immediately put on his boots, and very soon, his whole body actually floated up. Mo Yunqi glanced at his feet and said in shock, "This thing can increase my speed by at least 30% to 40%. With my current speed, I'm afraid that even a divine combination realm expert might not be able to catch up to me." Yi Xian nodded his head. "You are currently at the peak of the high sky realm. You must reach the nether passage realm as soon as possible." As he spoke, he pointed at Jianji and Baizhe. "The 2 of you need to reach the nether passage realm as soon as possible." Baizhe and Jianji nodded. Yi Xian said again, "Choose." Baizhe looked at the treasures in front of him. In the end, he chose a pair of black bracers. The gauntlet was completely black and made of unknown material. There were even some beast markings around the gauntlet. This pair of arm guards was also a low-grade bright rank. Baizhe put on the gauntlet with both hands. In an instant, the gauntlet suddenly shrank, and in the next moment, the beast markings around the gauntlet actually wriggled as if they were about to come to life. Baizhe looked at Yi Xian and the other two and said with some excitement, "There is beast soul energy inside. With this gauntlet, my strength should be able to increase by about 40%. As he spoke, he seemed to have thought of something and looked at Yi Xian. "Bandit, you also cultivate your physical body. This gauntlet is also for you." Yi Xian shook his head. "There is no difference whether you use it or I use it." Baizhe glanced at Yi Xian and did not say anything, but a trace of warmth flowed through his heart. In fact, the 4 of them had long become one. It was the same no matter who used it. Yi Xian looked at Jianji, and Jianji glanced at the treasures in front of her. After a moment, she shook her head. "There is no need." Yi Xian nodded. "I will find a good saber for you in the future." As he finished speaking, he kept all the treasures. Then, he faced Mo Yunqi and the other two. "From now on, Anji will be in charge of supervising the construction of Tsanglan Academy. Baizhe will be in charge of exploring the depths of the mountains and finding some places suitable for cultivation. After that, we will plan to build some cultivation places." "Are we recruiting?" Mo Yunqi suddenly asked. Yi Xian nodded. "We are recruiting. An academy naturally had to have students. However, we will not recruit randomly. We will have to go through strict selection. These will be discussed later. For now, let's first build Tsanglan Academy." As he spoke, he faced Mo Yunqi. "Old Mo, your skin is thicker. Go down the mountain and spread the news. Just say that Tsanglan Academy is recruiting. Also, go and find out which scholars are there in the imperial capital, those who have great knowledge. In the future, our Tsanglan Academy will not only focus on cultivation. An academy is an academy. Naturally, books must be read." Mo Yunqi hesitated, then said, "Read?" Yi Xian nodded. "Not only must we cultivate the students' strength, we must also cultivate their qualities and improve their thinking. I don't want the future students of our academy to be mercenaries." Mo Yunqi quickly nodded. Right, don't be like those bastards from Kuraki Academy. Each and every one of them is shameless." Yi Xian nodded, then he faced Jianji. "First, let people build a morning hall. Also, find a place with good feng shui. After the morning hall is built, we will go to Kuraki Academy to welcome back those students from Tsang Mountain's Xiao Dao." Hearing this, Jianji slightly trembled. She glanced at Yi Xian. but didn't say anything. Yi Xian slowly stood up. He turned his head to face the horizon. They should all go home. After an hour, Yi Xian left Songlan Mountain. He arrived at a courtyard of Drunken Immortal Inn. Inside the courtyard, the 9th floor master personally came out to receive him. Inside the room, Yi Xian took out all the treasures from the prison pagoda. This is? The 9th floor master was a little surprised. Yi Xian said, Senior, these are the things I obtained previously. I hope that Senior can auction them off. The 9th floor master said in a low voice, You need money? Yi Xian nodded. He naturally needed money. Songlan Academy's construction couldn't be completely dependent on Drunken Immortal Inn and the Jiang country's royal family. This wasn't how people should act. Moreover, he had to prepare some cultivation resources for Mo Yunqi and the other two. Cultivation required money. In addition, when Songlan Academy recruited new students in the future, it would also require a lot of expenses. Money. He really needed money now. The 9th floor master thought for a moment, then nodded, These things of yours are not common objects. Some are even of the highest quality. If you auction them here, I'm afraid you won't be able to sell many of them. How about this, leave these things behind. I'll let the higher-ups appraise the price, then our Drunken Immortal Inn will buy them and auction them off in Qingzhou. Don't worry, we won't treat little friend unfairly. At that time, if the price exceeds the price we offered little friend, we'll compensate little friend. How about it? Yi Xian thought for a moment, then nodded, all right. Then I'll be troubling Senior. The 9th floor master smiled, Little friend, you're too kind. When he spoke up to this point, he suddenly withdrew a black card and passed it to Yi Xian, Little friend, this was personally issued by the 2nd floor master. The 2nd floor master asked me to pass a message to little friend. If little friend goes to the Central Divine Prefecture in the future, then please be a guest at Drunken Immortal Inn. 2nd floor master? Yi Xian was slightly puzzled. The 9th floor master nodded and smiled. The higher-ups of my Drunken Immortal Inn are already aware of what happened last night. Thanks to little friend and your master, I'm already the 5th floor master. Of course, I'm still responsible for the affairs of Jiang country, and I'll be able to leave whenever little friend leaves Jiang country in the future. So that's how it is. Yi Xian cupped his fists, Congratulations, Senior. The 9th floor master shook his head and smiled, It's all thanks to your master. If I'm unable to improve further, then I'll probably die of old age in Jiang country. As he spoke, he pointed at the black card in front of Yi Xian and said, Little friend, this card is the highest level VIP card of my Drunken Immortal Inn. With this card, all floor masters below the 5th floor master have to bow when they meet little friend. Moreover, with this card, little friend can mobilize the experts of my Drunken Immortal Inn to fight 3 times at will no matter where you go. Moreover, you don't have to pay any fees for auctioning anything in my Drunken Immortal Inn, and so long as it's something that belongs to my Drunken Immortal Inn, then my Drunken Immortal Inn will give you a 40% discount. Yi Xian took the black card, and then he cupped his fists once more to the 9th floor master and said, Senior, please tell the higher-ups of your inn that I, Yi Xian, will remember this kindness. The 9th floor master's smile became even more brilliant when he heard this. The reason why the Drunken Immortal Inn wanted to befriend Yi Xian was not only because Yi Xian had a sword immortal backing him, but also because of Yi Xian's innate talent and strength. He was a super genius that wasn't inferior to An Lanxiu. He might even become a sword immortal in the future. If Yi Xian really became a sword immortal, then it would be equivalent to having a sword immortal friend for the Drunken Immortal Inn. A sword immortal friend was the most powerful deterrent. Anyone who wanted to touch the Drunken Immortal Inn would have to think twice. Most importantly, it was impossible for the Drunken Immortal Inn to rope in a famous sword immortal. However, it was possible to rope in a young man that had the potential to become a sword immortal. Yi Xian didn't know that the 9th floor master's words carried great weight in the Drunken Immortal Inn because he had won the bet yesterday. If he had lost the bet, then he would have died a horrible death. However, he had won the bet. The drunken immortal Yin had directly promoted him to the 5th floor master, and his authority was many times greater than before. It could be said that he had ascended to the heavens in a single bound. After a while, Yi Xian turned and left. Looking at Yi Xian's departing figure, the 9th floor master's smile became even more radiant, and his eyes were filled with admiration. Yi Xian was not only a monstrous talent, but his loyal character was also highly valued by the drunken immortal Yin. For this kind of person, if you helped him now, he would remember you for the rest of his life. With the help of the Jiang country's imperial family and the drunken immortal Yin, the construction of Sanglan Academy was very fast. In less than a few days, a large hall appeared on a mountain range. Ji Yunshan. This was the name that Yi Xian had given it, using old Ji's name. On this day, the sky was just beginning to brighten. Yi Xian stood at the top of the mountain and looked down. Behind him were Mo Yunqi and the other two. Yi Xian said softly, "It's time to bring them home. They should pay the price for old Ji's death. A debt of blood must be paid with blood." After saying that, the 4 of them left Ji Yunshan and went straight to Kuraki Academy. P.S. Today, I am going to Beijing's Lu Sun Academy of Literature for Advanced Studies. I am grateful to all the readers for their support. This time, I will not flirt with girls. I will only study hard and work hard. You must believe me, don't go around ruining my reputation. Chapter 110. Kuraki Academy. In the entire imperial capital, Kuraki Academy was in the most awkward position. Li Xuanzang's death had practically caused Kuraki Academy to be without a leader. As for how exactly Li Xuanzang died, they had no idea. After all, Jiang Yuetian and the 9th floor master wouldn't tell Kuraki Academy about this. Yi Xian's group of 4 headed straight for Kuraki Academy, and countless people watched them along the way. Who in the imperial capital didn't know Yi Xian's group of 4? Yi Xian's group of 4 could be said to be even more famous than Enlanxiu from all those years ago. Seeing that the 4 of them were heading towards Kuraki Academy, countless people followed them along the way. More and more people followed them. It didn't take long for Yi Xian's group of 4 and a large group of people to arrive at the foot of Tsang Mountain. Yi Xian raised his head to face Tsang Mountain. In the next moment, a sword suddenly soared into the sky and circled in the sky. At the same time, a voice suddenly resounded from Tsang Mountain. Kuraki Academy, does anyone want to fight? Does anyone want to fight? Countless people raised their heads to look at Tsang Mountain. No one replied. Boos rang out from the crowd. Suddenly, an old man appeared not too far away from Yi Xian's group of 4. It was the vice dean of Kuraki Academy, Mo Song. A divine combination realm expert. Mo Song stared fixedly at Yi Xian. Why go too far? You. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly charged forward and instantly arrived before Mo Song. In the next moment, he suddenly slashed the spirit elegant sword with both hands. A single strike to decide life and death. Not only did this strike contain powerful sword force, but it also contained sword intent. Mo Song's expression changed drastically when he saw Yi Xian's sudden attack. He stomped his right foot behind him, folded his hands together, and then pushed forward forcefully. Bang! A powerful force surged out from his palms. Bang! Under the gazes of countless people, Mo Song's entire body was directly sent flying. This time, he was sent flying more than 100 feet. Everyone was dumbfounded. Mo Song was a divine combination realm expert. He was sent flying just like that. In the distance, Mo Song glanced at his broken arms. Then, he lifted his head to look at Yi Xian in the distance and said in shock, "Master Kendo." Suddenly, a sword flashed. Chi! Mo Song's head instantly flew off. Blood gushed out like a fountain. Everyone in the surroundings was dumbstruck. Everyone was looking at Yi Xian. Kendo Grandmaster? Such a young sword Dao Grandmaster? Yi Xian opened his palm and the spirit-elegant sword returned to his palm. Yi Xian held his sword and walked towards Tsang Shan. Mo Yunqi and the other two followed closely behind. Under the gazes of countless people, Yi Xian and the others entered the Shao Dao of the Tsang Mountains. Beside the Shao Dao, there was a corpse. It was a corpse that had been nailed to the ground. The original appearance of the corpse could no longer be seen clearly. His limbs had been nailed to the ground. It was a miserable sight. Tears flowed from Ji Anji's eyes as he gazed at the corpse. Mo Yunqi and Bai Zai were about to remove the corpse when Yi Xian shook his head. I'm going to make the students of Tsang Lan Academy kneel and send them back to Tsang Lan Academy. As soon as he finished speaking, he walked swiftly up the mountain. Mo Yunqi, Bai Zai, and Ji Anji followed closely behind him. As for the others at the foot of the mountain, they hesitated for a moment before they hurriedly followed. At this moment, they weren't afraid of Tsangmu Academy because the entire Jiang country and the Immortal Indulgence Inn were targeting Tsangmu Academy. At this moment, Tsangmu Academy could be said to be hated by everyone. It didn't take long for Yi Xian's group to arrive at the top of Tsang Mountain. There was a hall before Yi Xian's group of 4, and over 100 people were standing before the hall. All of them were students of Tsangmu Academy. The person in the lead was none other than the other vice dean of Tsangmu Academy, Ku Mu. Ku Mu had been heavily injured by Old Man Ji, but he hadn't died. Even though he hadn't died, he'd been heavily injured, and he still hadn't recovered. Ku Mu's expression was extremely unsightly when he saw Yi Xian. He's here again. He's here again. The last time Yi Xian had come to Tsangmu Academy, not only had he killed Fen Zhu, but he'd also killed over a dozen of Tsangmu Academy's students. And now, he'd come again. Yi Xian looked at Ku Mu and the others who stood nearby. Please send my Tsangmu Academy students to Tsangmu Academy. Remember, send them to Tsangmu Academy on their knees. Hearing this, the expressions of the Tsangmu Academy's students instantly turned sinister. Kneel? That's an insult. Ku Mu said in a sinister voice, Yi Xian, since you want to fight to the death, then we'll fight? Yi Xian suddenly interrupted Ku Mu, since you want to fight, then let's fight. As soon as he finished speaking, his entire body charged forward. Behind Yi Xian, the corners of Mo Yunqi's mouth curled into a sinister smile. Then let's fight. I fucking wanted to fuck all of you bastards to death since a long time ago. As soon as he finished speaking, his black shoes suddenly trembled slightly, and then his figure transformed into an afterimage that vanished on the spot. He was so swift that many in the surroundings couldn't even see him clearly. At the same time that Mo Yunqi charged forward, Bai Zai and Ji Anji had charged forward as well. This time, they hadn't come here to negotiate, they'd come here to fight. Tsangmu Academy was primarily responsible for Old Man Ji's death. So, how could they not fucking avenge him? Yi Xian's target was Ku Mu. Ku Mu was an expert at the peak of the divine combination realm, but he wasn't confident in facing Yi Xian at all. After all, Yi Xian wasn't just at the peak of the Skyfall realm, he'd even comprehended sword intent. A grandmaster in the martial Dao. A grandmaster in the sword Dao. Presently, Yi Xian's combat strength couldn't be compared to the past. Ku Mu spoke fiercely when he saw Yi Xian and the others charge over. Fight. Fight to the death. As soon as he finished speaking, he was the first to charge forward. Presently, Tsangmu Academy didn't have any other choice. So, they had no choice but to fight if they wanted to survive. Because he was very clearly aware that Yi Xian wouldn't let them go at all. So, surrendering would only bring humiliation upon themselves. At the moment that Ku Mu charged forward, a few more formidable auras appeared here. 3 divine combination realm experts. The 3 of them, along with Ku Mu, charged towards Yi Xian. Clearly, the 4 of them wanted to kill Yi Xian. As for the remaining students of Tsangmu, they charged at Bai Zai's group instead. 3 against almost 100. Mo Yunqi's group was undoubtedly crushed in terms of aura and numbers. However, there wasn't even a trace of fear in their eyes. Right at this moment, a group of black-clothed figures suddenly appeared here. There were over 40 of them, and every single one of them held black sickles in their hands. As soon as they appeared here, they immediately joined the battlefield, and their targets were the students of Tsangmu Academy. As soon as they joined the battlefield, countless students of Tsangmu Academy fell to the ground. Ku Mu roared furiously, the imperial household of the Jiang country. The Immortal Indulgence Inn. How could he not discern that they'd been sent by the Immortal Indulgence Inn and the Jiang country's imperial household? No one answered him. Ku Mu was utterly helpless as well. In the end, he could only besiege Yi Xian like a madman. For divine combination realm experts besieged Yi Xian, so Yi Xian was naturally no match for them. He retreated repeatedly as soon as the battle began. On the other hand, Ku Mu and the others seemed as if they'd gone mad as they chased after Yi Xian. All they wanted to do now was kill Yi Xian. At this moment, Mo Yinchi suddenly appeared behind Yi Xian. In the next moment, a golden flying dagger slashed towards a divine fusion realm expert not far away from Yi Xian. That divine fusion realm expert's expression changed drastically as he forcefully dodged to the side, dodging this fatal flying dagger. Almost at the same time, a figure charged towards a divine fusion realm expert not far away like a razor-sharp beast. It was Bai Zhe. Before anyone could clearly see who it was, one of the divine combination realm experts was knocked back over 30 meters. On the other side, Ji Anji had also silently appeared in front of a divine combination realm expert. 4 against 4. As for the students of Kuraki Academy, they were completely suppressed by the black-clothed men. In fact, even if Yi Xian's group of 4 hadn't come to take revenge, the Jiang country's imperial household and the Immortal Indulgence Inn wouldn't have let Kuraki Academy off. If they didn't eliminate Kuraki Academy now, wouldn't they just be waiting for revenge in the future? Opposite Yi Xian, Ku Mu stared at Yi Xian. Good, Yi Xian. I never thought that my Kuraki Academy would perish in your hands. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already above Ku Mu. A sword slashed down. Bang! Ku Mu was sent flying dozens of meters away. As soon as he came to a stop, the ground beneath his feet shattered. Not only that, but blood flowed from the corner of his mouth and instantly dyed the clothes on his chest red. Ku Mu was shocked to the extreme. He raised his head to look at Yi Xian. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly shouted angrily, "Don't fucking talk nonsense with me. I just want to kill you." As soon as he finished speaking, he charged forward. Although he couldn't see, he could still sense it. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't see, his combat strength would have increased by at least 20% to 30%. Being unable to see would affect him to a certain extent. When he saw Yi Xian charge over again, a savage smile appeared on the corners of Ku Mu's mouth, then come. As soon as he finished speaking, he charged towards Yi Xian as well. A powerful aura surged out from his body, and it was so strong that it surpassed the aura of an ordinary divine combination realm expert. He was detonating himself. Ku Mu was very clearly aware that it was utterly impossible for him to be a match for Yi Xian in his current state. So, instead of allowing Yi Xian to kill him, it was better to take him down with him. However, Yi Xian didn't stop, and his sword suddenly struggled free from Ku Mu's grasp and slashed forward. The savage smile on the corners of Ku Mu's mouth gradually grew wider. Bang! A world-shaking explosion suddenly resounded, and then a powerful wave of energy surged out from the surroundings. Moreover, a figure was blasted flying incessantly amidst this powerful wave of energy. It was Yi Xian. He flew for almost 300 m before smashing against a mountain wall in the end. Everyone here stopped moving and gazed at Yi Xian. Yi Xian crawled up slowly from beneath the mountain wall, and then he wiped off the blood on the corner of his mouth and gazed at Mo Yinchi and the others. Kill. Kill them all. Kill. Kill them all. Chapter 111. Hearing Yi Xian's words, Mo Yinchi and the other two immediately charged out. Kill. He, Yi Xian, was never a soft-hearted person. Since the two academies had already reached a point where they could no longer fight to the death, why not kill each other? Kuraki Academy had never been merciful to their Tsanglan Academy. Kill. Yi Xian himself also charged out. His speed was very fast, but his sword was even faster. Just as he charged out, his sword was already flying towards a Divine Combination Realm expert from Kuraki Academy. The Divine Combination Realm expert who was fighting with Mo Yinchi had a huge change in expression. He suddenly turned around and the sword arrived. Boom! The Divine Combination Realm expert was directly sent flying. At this moment, the exquisite spirit sword was about to fly out. However, a flying dagger was even faster. The moment that Divine Fusion Realm expert was about to fly out, a flying dagger pierced through his throat. Chi! The Divine Combination Realm expert's head instantly flew out, blood spurting out like a fountain. Mo Yinchi glanced at Yi Xian who was not far away and said indifferently, "Snatch ahead." Yi Xian wielded the sword in his right hand and swung it to the side. 100 feet away, Chi! Another Divine Combination Realm expert's head instantly flew out. Instant kill. It was a direct instant kill. Seeing this scene, some of the Kuraki Academy students were instantly shocked to the extreme. However, no one chose to surrender. If they surrendered now, they would only be humiliating themselves. Fight. Both sides no longer had a path of retreat. As for those Divine Combination Realm experts, apart from Yi Xian, it would be difficult for Mo Yinchi and the other two to kill them in a one-on-one battle. But now, there were 4 teams of 4. The 4 of them easily crushed them. After all the Divine Combination Realm experts of Kuraki Academy were killed, what followed was a massacre. A true massacre. In front of the education hall, the heads of Kuraki Academy students continuously flew. The surrounding spectators were horrified. Some of them did not even dare to continue watching as they turned and fled down the mountain. It was too bloody. This day was the doomsday of Kuraki Academy. Soon, only a dozen Kuraki Academy students were left in the field. This was left behind by Yi Xian on purpose. The 10 of them huddled closely together. Their clothes had long been dyed red with blood. Yi Xian walked in front of the 10 people. "Do you want to live?" One of the Kuraki Academy students grinned and said, "Live? Even if we die standing, we won't." Chi! A sword pierced through the head of the student who spoke, causing blood to spurt out. Seeing this scene, the remaining students couldn't help but take a few steps back. Yi Xian pointed at a Kuraki Academy student. "Do you want to live?" The student gulped and struggled a little. At this moment, a sword flew towards him, Chi! That academy student's body was dismembered with a single slash. Blood and internal organs splattered all over the ground. Cruel. Blood? Yi Xian was very clear that if they were defeated, the outcome of the 4 of them would be even more miserable than this. Since they'd chosen to be ruthless, then they had to be ruthless when they had to be. Yi Xian pointed at another Kuraki Academy student. The latter's expression changed greatly and he hurriedly said, "I want to live." At this moment, even his legs were trembling. Yi Xian faced the remaining people. No one spoke, but it wasn't long before the spirit elegant sword beside Yi Xian trembled slightly. When they saw this scene, the students hurriedly said, "We want to live." Live. In this world, not everyone was unafraid of death, especially when there was a chance to live. Yi Xian turned around and faced the foot of the mountain. There are 36 corpses of Tsanglan Academy students at the foot of the mountain. Send them home for me. Remember, you have to kneel. Hearing this, the expressions of everyone present instantly became unsightly. Send them home while kneeling. This was too humiliating. Yi Xian said indifferently, compared to the humiliation you've given them, What is this little bit of humiliation? If you're unwilling, that's fine. Leave your heads here as an offering to their souls in heaven. As soon as he finished speaking, the spirit elegant sword suddenly floated above the heads of the group of Karaki Academy students. Yi Xian raised 3 fingers. I'll count to 3. 3. The group of Karaki Academy students clenched their fists tightly with extremely unsightly expressions. Cold sweat flowed down their foreheads. Obviously, they were struggling. Yi Xian bent 1 finger. 2. As soon as he finished speaking, the spirit elegant sword suddenly descended. Hiss. One of the Karaki Academy students was directly pierced from the top of his head to the bottom. When they saw this scene, the line of defense in the hearts of the Karaki Academy students instantly collapsed. In next to no time, 6 Karaki Academy students ran madly towards Tsang Mountain's Shao Dao. Just like that, under the gazes of countless people, the students carried the corpses of the Tsanglan Academy students towards Tsanglan Academy. Of course, all of them were kneeling. On Tsang Mountain, Yi Xian and the others stood before the academy, and before them was a ground covered in corpses and blood. Country of Zhang's Karaki Academy was completely annihilated. Yi Xian raised his head and faced the sky. Seniors, thank you for your help in annihilating Karaki Academy. Now that Karaki Academy has been annihilated, everything in Karaki Academy shall be split equally between the 3 of us. What do you think? At this moment, the 9th floor master and Jiang Yuetian appeared in front of Yi Xian. The 9th floor master smiled. How about this, brother Jiang and I will split 30%, and your Tsanglan Academy will split 40%. Young friend, don't refuse. If not for your master killing Li Xuanzang, we wouldn't have been able to annihilate Karaki Academy. At the end of the day, we're the ones who benefited. Yi Xian thought for a moment and nodded. Then I won't stand on ceremony. The 9th floor master laughed. We're all on the same side. What's there to stand on ceremony for? Split the spoils. Karaki Academy had accumulated its wealth for so many years, so it definitely had a lot of treasures. Mo Yunqi and the others shuddered with fear when they plundered Karaki Academy's treasury. Among the treasures, there were actually 49 supreme-grade spirit artifacts, 6 bright-rank spirit artifacts, and one of them was actually a mid-grade bright-rank spirit artifact. Besides that, there were a total of 10 million spirit stones, cultivation techniques, martial techniques, and other miscellaneous items that were innumerable. This wasn't just getting rich, it was getting rich overnight. To the 3 parties, it was truly an overnight fortune. Jiang Yuetian was grinning from ear to ear. What the country of Jiang lacked the most now was wealth, and with this wealth, the country of Jiang's treasury would be sufficient for the next 10 years. The 9th floor master was quite excited as well. To him, these treasures entering the Drunken Immortal Inn was a political achievement. His goal wasn't always the country of Jiang or Azure Prefecture, but the divine central continent. He didn't have any hope in the past, but now he had a great chance. Yi Xian and the others were naturally excited as well. With so many things, rebuilding Tsanglan Academy would be much easier. Now that Tsanglan Academy was rebuilt, what they lacked the most were spirit stones, martial techniques, cultivation techniques, and spirit artifacts. One had to know that students needed resources to cultivate. With these resources, when they first recruited students, they would have something to learn, and they would be able to tide over the most difficult period of the early stages. This time, he was serious about rebuilding Tsanglan Academy. Soon, the 3 parties divided the treasures cleanly. On Yi Xian's side, there were 2 bright-rank spirit artifacts, 16 supreme-grade spirit artifacts, 3 earth-grade martial techniques, 3 earth-grade cultivation techniques. Apart from these, there were more than 3 million supreme-grade spirit stones, more than 30 jade-grade spirit stones, and various other items. Seeing these items, Mo Yunqi and Bai Zai's eyes widened. So many treasures. They had really struck it rich. However, these treasures were stored in the first floor of the prison pagoda by Yi Xian. The first floor of the prison pagoda was still spacious enough. After storing the items, Yi Xian turned to the ninth floor master and Jiang Yuetian, "Seniors, we will take our leave first." The ninth floor master nodded. "Young friend, the Drunken Immortal Inn has accepted the items you gave me previously. The money will be sent soon, and I will send them to Tsanglan Academy." Yi Xian cupped his fists. "Then I'll have to trouble you." With that, he turned and left. Mo Yinchi and the others followed. Watching Yi Xian and the others leave, the ninth floor master smiled and withdrew his gaze. "We've earned quite a lot this time." Jiang Yuetian nodded. This time, the country of Zhang's imperial family had really earned a lot. It could be said that with these treasures, the country of Zhang's overall national strength would increase greatly. A win-win situation for all three parties. Jiang Yuetian and the ninth floor master looked at each other, then both of them burst into laughter. Tsanglan Academy. When Yi Xian and the others returned to MTG Yunshan, the Kuraki Academy students also sent the corpses of the Tsanglan Academy students to the peak of MTG Yunshan. In front of Yi Xian and the others were more than 36 corpses. Each corpse was extremely miserable. One could imagine how they were treated in the Kuraki Academy. On the side were the group of Kuraki Academy students. Without Yi Xian's permission, they naturally didn't dare to move. At this time, Yi Xian suddenly said, "Let's go." The students immediately rushed down the mountain as if they had been granted amnesty. Yi Xian led Mo Yinchi and the others to the corpses. Looking at the corpses, Ji Anji's tears flowed again. These few days were the times she cried the most in her life. Yi Xian and the others bowed deeply to the corpses in front of them. Yi Xian said softly, "You can all rest in peace." Saying so, he turned to Bai Zhe, "Bury them well, then erect a tombstone and carve their names on it. Let our Tsanglan Academy students remember them in the future. They died for the academy. Other than that, try to contact their relatives and try to compensate them as much as possible." Mo Yinchi nodded, "I will handle the matter of contacting their relatives." Yi Xian nodded slightly. "Other than that, there is one more thing. Although the Kuraki Academy has been destroyed, it is still a branch. Hence, our crisis has not been resolved. I and all of you need to improve your strength. I won't force you. If you want to slack off, it's fine. If you die in the future, I will definitely give you a grand burial and make your funeral grand." Saying so, he turned and left. Mo Yinchi and the others, Yi Xian came to a bamboo forest in the back of the mountain. He sat cross-legged and placed his right hand where his eyes were, sword eye. His top priority now was to cultivate the sword eye. Chapter 112. Eye of the Sword. Yi Xian naturally had to cultivate the eye of the sword first. Because he did not have both eyes now, his battle power was still reduced. Yi Xian slowly analyzed the eye of the sword cultivation method that the mysterious woman had given him. The more he analyzed, the more shocked he became, because this cultivation method was a little unbelievable and complicated. Eye of the sword. Using the sword as the eye. To use the sword as the eye, one must first use the heart as the sword. Heart. This was the key point of the eye of the sword. Only by using the heart as the sword could one condense sword intent and use the sword as the eye. When that happened, it was equivalent to using the heart to see the world. The sword was just a medium. Although it was called the eye of the sword, it was more appropriate to call it the eye of the heart. Yi Xian sat cross-legged on the ground. Beside him, the elegant spirit sword floated quietly. And around him, a surge of sword intent quietly condensed. Sword intent. Yi Xian did not know what kind of sword intent his sword intent was. Back then, the mysterious woman ran away before she finished speaking. But to him, any kind of sword intent was not important. What was important was that it could enhance his battle power. According to the cultivation method that the mysterious woman had given him, Yi Xian began to slowly circulate it. Soon, his body emitted a faint sword glow. This cultivation method only had 3 key points. Listen. Feel. Think. Yi Xian listened attentively. The sound of the wind. He heard the sound of the wind. It was very soft. Gradually, he heard the rustling of the leaves in the surrounding bamboo forest. At this moment, the sword intent around him suddenly spread out. The sword intent followed his thoughts to the bamboo leaves. When the sword intent appeared on the bamboo leaves, he could clearly feel all the details of the bamboo leaves. That feeling was as if he was seeing it with his own eyes. It was a very strange feeling. Yi Xian was a little excited. To him, this was a completely new discovery. Soon, Yi Xian's sword intent spread towards the ground below. Soon, he could feel the earth, the gravel, the smell of the soil, the water. He could feel more and more clearly. It was even clearer than seeing it with his own eyes. This feeling was really strange. Yi Xian was immersed in it. Soon, his sword intent spread out in all directions. However, it couldn't spread too far. When the sword intent reached a distance of 10 feet away from him, he seemed a little tired. He could use his sword insight to clearly sense everything within 30 m, but this was too troublesome. Because he wanted to clearly sense everything in his surroundings, he had to release his sword intent. In this way, the sword intent would be too scattered, and its might would be greatly reduced. What he needed to do was to cultivate the sword eye. At that time, he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble, and he would be able to achieve such an effect. With that in mind, Yi Xian withdrew his sword intent. Compressed sword will. Yi Xian began to crazily compress these sword intents. Before long, the sword intents inside and around his body were being compressed layer by layer. At this moment, his body felt like it was being cut by countless blades. The pain was unbearable. Yi Xian almost wailed out, but he forcefully endured it. If such a small ordeal could be called a man, could he still be called a man? He, Yi Xian, would never scream, even if he was beaten to death. At this moment, Yi Xian's body trembled violently. Then, the entire bamboo forest resounded with his screams, chi 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 chi. Around Yi Xian, the sword intents were like streaks of electricity, constantly gathering towards his eyes. Not only were there sword intents, but there were also streaks of sword radiance. When the sword radiance and sword intents gathered towards his eyes, the pain was truly unbearable. For a moment, he even wanted to give up. But now, he couldn't even give up even if he wanted to. Gradually, countless sword intents and sword radiance gathered in his eye sockets. These were all compressed sword intents and sword radiance. And his entire face actually had countless streaks of blood, incomparably terrifying. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the pain he was enduring was. While Yi Xian was cultivating, Mo Yunqi and the other two were also cultivating crazily. Although they had won the battle at Karaki Academy, the 4 of them did not forget one thing. However, the 4 of them did not forget that Elder Ji had died in order to protect them. What was helplessness? What was despair? The moment they saw old Ji's death, they deeply experienced it. Whether it was Mo Yunqi, Bai Zhe, or Ji Anji, none of them wanted to experience such helplessness and despair. Now, only the 4 of them were left in Songlan Academy, and Yi Xian was even suffering from the backlash, causing him to lose his sight. When the 3 of them thought of this, the pressure was even greater. Cultivating. Even Mo Yunqi, who loved to slack off, was currently cultivating crazily. His entire body was covered with small metal balls, and every day, before dawn, he would start running into the mountains. And when he returned, his entire body was already drenched. Not only that, his legs were also trembling. However, the next day, before dawn, he would go out again. Bai Zhe was no longer cultivating under the waterfall. Instead, he continuously used his body to hit the mountain walls every day. He was not quite the same as ordinary people. The more his body was stimulated, the stronger his body would be, and the higher the possibility of the power of the demon clan in his body being stimulated. However, this process was extremely painful. Every time he hit the mountain wall, the flesh on his body would split open. Under the mountain wall, Bai Zai would hit the mountain wall again, and every time he hit it, he would cry out strangely. It was simply too painful. On the other side, at the Martyr's Palace. This was a newly built great hall of Sanglan Academy. There were close to 100 spirit tablets inside the hall, and old Ji's spirit tablet was in the most conspicuous position. Ji Anji was kneeling quietly in front of all the spirit tablets. At this moment, a figure walked in. The newcomer was none other than Yi Xian. Yi Xian's entire body was trembling, and he was limping as he walked. Ji Anji didn't turn around. She just stared blankly at the spirit tablets. Yi Xian walked over to Ji Anji's side, sat down, and then faced the spirit tablets. Yi Xian said softly, "You've been kneeling here for an entire day." Ji Anji didn't say anything. Yi Xian turned to look at Ji Anji. "In the future, I want all of you to accompany me to the Divine Central Academy." Ji Anji looked at Yi Xian. "Are you serious?" Yi Xian nodded. "I'm serious." Ji Anji nodded, got up, and turned to leave. When she reached the door, she suddenly stopped. "Grandfather said that with you students, he has no regrets in this life." With that, she disappeared through the door. Inside the hall, Yi Xian sat on the ground. He just sat there, and after some time, he took out the wine gourd at his waist and took a sip. It was a little hot. However, the taste wasn't bad. Thus, he took a few more sips. Soon, his entire face was flushed red. In the past, he rarely drank. More accurately, he didn't drink at all, because in his opinion, drinking would only make things worse. But now, after 2 sips, he realized that it seemed to be pretty good. As he drank, Yi Xian suddenly knelt down in front of Elder Ji's spirit tablet. He held his head with both hands, tears pouring out like a broken dam. How could he forget Elder Ji's face before his death? He had never forgotten it. After some time, Yi Xian slowly stood up and turned to leave. When he reached the door, he stopped and said softly, "Elder Ji, don't worry. Azure Province's Kuraki Academy, Dark World. I won't let a single one of these people who came to harm us go. I'll also take old Mo and the others to the Divine Central Academy. Your master is our Grand Master. We don't recognize the Azure Wave Academy, but we do recognize our Grand Master." With that, he left the Martyr's Palace. Outside the palace, moonlight hung high in the night sky. As it poured down, the earth was bathed in silver light. Yi Xian walked away into the distance, walking in a crooked manner. Before long, Yi Xian arrived at the back of the mountain. On the side of the road, he encountered Mo Yinchi, who was running. Mo Yinchi stopped and sized up Yi Xian with a slight frown. "Bandit Yi, are you drunk?" Yi Xian shook his head. "Why would I be drunk? I'm not drunk." With that, he opened his palm, and the spirit grace sword appeared in his hand. He pointed it at Mo Yinchi. "Mo Yinchi, come, let's practice our swordplay." As soon as he finished speaking, he dashed out. Seeing that Yi Xian was serious, Mo Yinchi's expression immediately changed. He dodged backward and pulled several meters away from Yi Xian. "Bandit Yi, why are you acting like a drunkard?" "You." Mo Yinchi's voice stopped abruptly because the spirit grace sword in Yi Xian's hand was already slashing towards him. Mo Yinchi was shocked and continuously dodged backward. However, Yi Xian's sword was as fast as lightning as it chased after him. Mo Yinchi scolded as he ran, "Bandit Yi, why are you acting like a drunkard? Hurry up and stop, or I'll beat you up." Yi Xian did not stop at all and continued to chase after Mo Yinchi. Just like that, the two of them sprinted all the way. Soon, Mo Yinchi reached where Bai Zai was. Bai Zai was lying on the ground, panting heavily. When he saw Yi Xian chasing after Mo Yinchi, he was dumbfounded. "Mo Yinchi, how did you provoke him?" Mo Yunqi glared at Bai Zai. Provoke him. This guy is drunk. He slashed me the moment he saw me. With that, he suddenly dodged sideways and a sword gleam flashed past. Chi! The sword landed steadily a few inches in front of Bai Zai. Bai Zai gulped and then crawled back a little. His body was strong, but Yi Xian's sword was very sharp. Most importantly, it was a mid-grade light-rank sword. At this moment, Yi Xian trembled as he walked towards Mo Yunqi, who was not far away. His face was flushed red and he held a wine gourd in his hand, taking a sip from time to time. Seeing this, Mo Yunqi's face was full of black lines. Bandit Yi, you. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly waved his right hand and the spirit-elegant sword landed in his hand. He pointed the sword at Mo Yunqi and said angrily, "Who are you? Why did you trespass into my Sanglan Academy?" With that, he directly rushed towards Mo Yunqi with the sword in hand. One sword to determine life and death. This sword directly decided life and death with a single sword. Seeing this sword, Mo Yunqi's expression changed and he turned to run. At the side, Bai Zai buried his head in the ground and did not move at all. He silently said, "Can't see me. Can't see me. P.S. I am currently studying in Beijing. I will try my best to keep up with updates. However, if there is a day where I don't update or stop updating, please show mercy. Because I have to go to class." Chapter 113. One sword to decide life and death. Mo Yunqi and Bai Zai were very familiar with this move. It was definitely Yi Xian's strongest killing move. Facing Yi Xian's move, Mo Yunqi had no desire to fight at all. He immediately ran away. Bai Zai also did not dare to take this move, so he chose to play dead. Right now, Yi Xian was obviously drunk, so it was better to temporarily avoid the brunt of the attack. However, at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly stopped. The exquisite sword also stopped on the spot. Soon, Yi Xian fell straight to the ground. Obviously, his drunkenness had dissipated a little. In the distance, Mo Yunqi stopped. He turned his head to look at Yi Xian lying on the ground, sighed softly, and walked back. Under the moonlight, the three of them lay in front of a huge rock. Yi Xian leaned against the rock. He looked up at the sky, thinking about something. Mo Yunqi and Bai Zai leaned on his left and right sides. The three of them did not speak for a long time. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly said, "Rebuilding Sanglan Academy and avenging Old Man Ji will be very difficult and very dangerous. You too." "Stop." Mo Yunqi suddenly said, "Bandit Yi. You mean to say that you want us to leave?" Yi Xian was silent. He knew that revenge was a very difficult thing to do. He did not know how powerful the Green Province's Dark World or Tsangmu Academy were, but he knew that they were definitely not something they could fight against now. As for those two forces, they might not take this lying down. Apart from that, he still had to go to the Tsanglan General Academy of the Divine Central Continent. Naturally, he would not go there to reason with them. In this world, if one wanted to reason with them, they had to first use their fists. Only when their fists were stronger than others would others reason with you. The road ahead would be very difficult. At this moment, Mo Yunqi said in a low voice, "Bandit Yi, we know that the road ahead will be very difficult. It is precisely because of this that we cannot let you go alone." As he spoke, he took a step back, looked at the horizon, and softly said, "No matter what the future holds, we will shoulder it together. If we can withstand it, then we will walk down it together. If we can't, then we will die together. Although I don't want to die, I don't want to be a coward. Also, Old Man Ji didn't just die for you. He also died for me and Big Guy. His revenge, his wish, we have the responsibility to fulfill it for him." Bai Zai nodded. "Let's do it together." As he spoke, he clenched his right hand tightly. In an instant, his entire right arm swelled up, and the veins on it bulged. It was an extremely shocking sight. Bai Zhe looked at Yi Xian and said seriously, I can activate the bloodline in my body soon. I can fight very well. Mo Yinchi glanced at Bai Zhe. Big guy, you have the bloodline of a demonic beast in your body. What kind of demonic beast are you? It can't be some random cat or dog, right? Bang! Mo Yinchi suddenly flew out. Tens of feet away, Mo Yinchi crashed onto the ground, but he quickly climbed back up and pointed angrily at Bai Zhe. One-on-one. Bai Zhe dashed out. Soon, the two of them were in a mess. In front of the boulder, Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. That's good too. Let's do it together. If we can't, let's die together. As he spoke, he picked up the wine gourd at his waist and took a few gulps. Seeing this scene, Mo Yinchi and Bai Zhe, who were not far away, suddenly stopped. Both of them glanced at Yi Xian. Yi Xian's face turned red again. Not only that, the sword at his waist trembled violently again. Run! Mo Yinchi turned and ran. His speed was very fast. Like a gust of wind, he instantly disappeared. Bai Zhe hesitated for a moment, then turned and ran as well. He couldn't beat this bandit Yi. Hurry and run. On the spot, Yi Xian started to fight. Then, he walked slowly into the distance, walking unsteadily, and the exquisite spirit sword beside him was also floating around, as though it was drunk. The next day, the 9th floor master of the Drunken Immortal Inn came to the Tsanglan Academy. The current Tsanglan Academy had already built 16 halls. Regardless of the scale or other aspects, it was much better than before. The previous Tsanglan Academy was not even considered an academy. The current scale was a true academy. Tsanglan Hall. The current Tsanglan Hall was at least several times larger than before. Although the decorations inside were not very luxurious, it was very unique. Inside the hall, Yi Xian walked in front of the 9th floor master and cupped his fists. Senior, please take a seat. The 9th floor master smiled. There's no need to sit. Today, I'm here to deliver something to you. As he spoke, he took out a golden card and handed it to Yi Xian. Yi Xian took the golden card and looked at the 9th floor master. The 9th floor master smiled. Little friend, guess how much is inside? Yi Xian shook his head. The 9th floor master laughed, 360 million gold coins. Hearing this, Yi Xian's hand trembled slightly. 360 million gold coins. The 9th floor master smiled. Little friend, do you think it's a lot? Yi Xian nodded seriously. The 9th floor master shook his head. You're wrong. Yi Xian faced the 9th floor master. Why? The 9th floor master smiled bitterly. Do you know how much gold coins are needed for each advancement after reaching the Nether Passage realm? An astronomical figure. Cultivation was, in fact, burning money. If a Nether Passage expert wants to advance, he'll need to prepare at least 200 million gold coins to buy some cultivation resources. This money doesn't include spirit artifacts, martial skills, and cultivation methods. And once you reach the 10,000 laws realm, the amount of money needed is even more terrifying. I'm afraid even a small country wouldn't be able to afford it. As he said this, he shook his head. If it wasn't for your master's help, I wouldn't have any hope of advancing in this life. Many people, it's not that they don't have the talent, it's not that they don't work hard enough, it's that they don't have the money. Yi Xian nodded. I understand. The 9th floor master nodded. Cultivation is burning money. For you, there are still many areas where you need money. Especially you swordsmen. You need all kinds of cultivation resources. When the time comes, you will feel very poor. Yi Xian smiled. When the time comes, I might need to borrow some money from your esteemed building. The 9th floor master laughed. No problem. As long as little friend asks, this old man will do his best. Yi Xian chuckled. At this moment, the ninth floor master suddenly said seriously, "Little friend, you might have to be careful." Huh? Yi Xian was somewhat puzzled. The ninth floor master said solemnly, "I received news from headquarters that I'm going there personally. Dark Realm and Kuraki Academy might not let this matter rest." Yi Xian said solemnly, "Even a sword immortal can't suppress them?" The ninth floor master shook his head. "I can. But I can't suppress the people in the Central Plains." When he spoke up to hear, he paused for a moment and said, "The pavilion master of our immortal indulgence in Pine Prefecture sent me a message. He said that something big might be happening in the Dark Dimension and Kuraki Academy, so your master should be careful." Sword immortals were strong and rare, but they were not invincible. Yi Xian nodded with a solemn expression. "Thank you for the reminder, Senior. Also, I hope that Senior and your esteemed building can help investigate. Please inform me at any time if there's any news." The ninth floor master nodded. "Of course. Our Drunken Immortal Inn has always been paying attention to this matter. Also, little friend, it's best if you remind your master to be on guard, because those people might not come in an open and above-board manner. They will definitely do it from the shadows. Especially the Dark Realm. Those fellows are assassins, so it's absolutely impossible for them to come openly." Yi Xian nodded. "I understand." The ninth floor master nodded slightly. "Take care, little friend. Also, the higher-ups have instructed that if your master needs help, just say the word. Our Drunken Immortal Inn is willing to dispatch experts above the myriad Dharma realm from the Central Plains. Roping them in. This time, it wasn't just roping in Yi Xian, it was roping in the sword immortal behind Yi Xian. The higher-ups of Drunken Immortal Inn were obviously not stupid. A sword immortal and a youth that might become a sword immortal in the future were definitely roped in. Moreover, they had to pay a certain price. Yi Xian cupped his fists once more. "Thank you for your kind intentions. However, I can't make the decision. I have to consult my master first." The ninth floor master smiled. Understood. He naturally knew that sword immortals generally didn't like owing favors. If Yi Xian's master didn't agree, then they wouldn't dare make the decision to send someone to help. A short moment later, the ninth floor master left. Yi Xian was the only one left in the Hall of Storms. Yi Xian turned around and went to the bamboo forest at the back of the mountain. He sat down cross-legged on the ground and then entered the first level of the prison pagoda. He looked up at the top of the pagoda and said in a deep voice, "Senior, someone is coming to beat you up. What are your thoughts on this matter?" He was definitely panicking. The other side clearly knew that he was a sword immortal, yet they still wanted to target him. This person was definitely someone at a higher level than Old Man Ji and the others. This kind of person, the four of them were definitely not a match for him. After waiting for a long time, there was no response. Yi Xian smiled bitterly. "Senior, this time there might be many very, very powerful people coming to beat you up. Aren't you panicking?" At this moment, a white piece of paper suddenly floated out from the second floor. Yi Xian released his sword intent. Through his sword intent's perception, he felt what was drawn on the paper. The paper was filled with claw marks. Densely packed claw marks. Yi Xian's face darkened. What is the meaning of this? Pa. At this moment, Yi Xian flew out without any warning. Finally, he smashed heavily into the pagoda wall not far away. Yi Xian crawled up from the ground. There was an additional claw mark on his face. At this moment, another piece of paper floated out from the second floor. On it, there were still densely packed claw marks. Yi Xian's face twitched. Great God, I really don't understand this. Pa. Yi Xian flew out without any warning again. After a while, Yi Xian crawled up from the ground. Just as he got up, another piece of paper floated in front of him. There were still many claw marks. Yi Xian said angrily. Damn it, who can understand this? Can't you write a few words? Claw, who the hell can understand this thing of yours? You. Pa. Yi Xian flew out again. Great God, stop playing. Qingzhou, Great Cloud Realm. Kuraki Academy, in front of Haran Palace. Two old men stood quietly. One was wearing a white robe and the other was wearing a black robe. Both of them looked extremely similar. Both of them were looking up at the green sword above Haran Palace. Not far behind the two old men were Mu Qingxian and the others. After an unknown period of time, the white-robed old man said softly, although this person's sword is swift and fierce, it has no sword intent. Or rather, the sword intent has dispersed. For the sword intent to disperse, it means that this person might not be a sword immortal. He's a sword emperor. Not a sword immortal. Mu Qingxian and the others suddenly looked up at the white-robed old man. Beside the white-robed old man, the black-robed old man nodded. Our Kuraki Academy basically knows all the sword immortals of the divine central continent. We have never heard of this person. He shouldn't be a sword immortal. The white-robed old man nodded. Since he's not a sword immortal, we naturally have to kill him. The black-robed old man nodded. Kill him. Chapter 114. It wasn't a sword immortal. Mu Xianqing and the others were very excited at this moment. After all, the reason why Kuraki Academy was so afraid was because they thought the owner of the sword was a sword immortal. A sword immortal. They were naturally afraid, or rather afraid. But what if it wasn't a sword immortal? Then what was there to be afraid of? What was there to be afraid of? At this moment, everyone from Kuraki Academy was filled with fighting spirit. At this moment, the white-robed old man suddenly turned around. Have the people from Dark World arrived? Mu Xianqing was about to speak, but the white-robed old man and the black-robed old man suddenly looked up at the sky. There, an old man was floating over on a bamboo. The old man was wearing a purplish-golden robe. Around the robe, there were some unknown ghostly figures that looked rather horrifying. Soon, the old man landed in front of Mu Xianqing and the others. The old man looked at the white-robed old man and the black-robed old man and smiled. So it's the two elders of Kuraki Academy. The white-robed old man cupped his fists. You are? The old man shook his head and smiled. You two should know the rules of Dark World. Only the dead know our names. Dark World Assassins. There was an unwritten rule among the Dark World Assassins. That was, only the dead could know their names. The white-robed old man glanced at the old man with the bamboo. Now? The old man with the bamboo smiled. Wait a moment, we're waiting for one more person. Who? The white-robed old man asked. The bamboo old man looked up at the sky and smiled. A swordsman. A swordsman. The white-robed old man squinted his eyes. Obviously, it wasn't an ordinary swordsman. At this moment, the black-robed old man suddenly said, If we kill her, how will we split it? The bamboo old man smiled. Dark World only wants her corpse. The golden core will belong to Kuraki Academy. If she has other treasures, we'll split them evenly. How about it? The white-robed old man fell silent. Corpse. The corpse of a sword emperor-level swordsman was very valuable. It should be said to be priceless. Especially to swordsmen, it was very valuable to research. Similarly, the golden dawn in one's body were also very precious. Although it was not as precious as the golden core of a sword immortal, it was still very precious. A moment later, the white-robed old man nodded. All right. The bamboo old man smiled and said, Then there is no disagreement. Once that swordsman arrived, he would head to Qingzhou. But those Dao protectors. The white-robed old man said indifferently, Everything has been arranged. My Kuraki Academy still has this bit of face. The long bamboo old man's lips curled up. That's great. Qingzhou. Sanglan Academy, back mountain. Yi Xian sat cross-legged on the ground. Countless sword intents and sword rays gathered around him, sword eye. For the past few days, he had been madly cultivating the sword eye. For him now, the most pressing matter at hand was to cultivate the sword eye. Unfortunately, it was too difficult. In order to gather the sword intents and sword rays into his eyes, he had to compress them to the limit. Moreover, he had to forcefully control the sword intents and sword rays. This was the most difficult part, and also the reason why he had failed several times before. Fortunately, his body was strong enough to withstand the destruction of the sword intents and sword rays. It should be said that this sword eye, probably only a swordsman with a strong body like him could cultivate it. On the other side, in front of a mountain wall, Bai Zai was madly slamming into the mountain wall. The bottom of the mountain wall had been smashed beyond recognition by him. After slamming for an unknown amount of time, he stopped. He lay straight on the ground, his whole body twitching, and on his upper body, his muscles were bulging, his veins were wriggling like little snakes. At a glance, it was a terrifying sight. After resting for a moment, Bai Zai took out a white jade bottle. Inside were body-tempering pills. One pill was worth around 300,000 gold coins. This bottle of pills was bought by Yi Xian for him, and there were a total of 20 pills. Looking at the white jade bottle in his hand, Bai Zai had a complicated look in his eyes. Although Bandit Yi would usually go crazy when he was drunk, he really took good care of him, Mo Yinchi, and Ji Anji. Aside from cultivating, the three of them would let Yi Xian handle everything else for them. This was also the reason why the three of them were so eager to become stronger, because they did not want Yi Xian to bear everything alone. If there was anything, they would face it together. And if they wanted to face it together, they could only become stronger, and work hard to become stronger. Otherwise, not only would they not be able to face it, they might even be a burden. Bai Zai took a deep breath and swallowed a body-tempering pill. After about a quarter of an hour, he stood up and once again rammed into the mountain wall. Bang! The entire mountain wall shook violently. This went on for an unknown amount of time. Boom! Suddenly, at one point, Bai Zai directly crashed into one of the mountain walls, and his whole body was thrown backward heavily. Bang! He directly smashed a huge pit in the ground. Inside the deep pit, Bai Zai's body kept twitching as if he was having an epileptic fit. The veins on his body began to violently tremble, and not only that, the blood vessels under his skin also began to bulge. This went on for about an hour. Roar! Inside the deep pit, Bai Zai suddenly roared angrily, and in the blink of an eye, the deep pit began to collapse layer by layer. After about 15 minutes, Bai Zai suddenly jumped out of the deep pit. At this moment, his body was actually a size larger than before. Most importantly, he had actually reached the Nether Passage realm. Other than that, there was a mysterious violent energy around his body, and at this moment, his eyes did not look like a human's eyes at all, but more like a beast's eyes. After an unknown amount of time, Bai Zai slowly clenched his fists. The power of the bloodline has finally been activated. Yes, go beat up Bandit Yi. Defeat him, and I will be the big brother. After saying that, he directly ran towards the bamboo forest where Yi Xian was. Very quickly, he arrived at the bamboo forest where Yi Xian was. He was about to rush over, but very quickly, he stopped. At this moment, Yi Xian's body was emitting an extremely terrifying sword intent and sword light, especially in his eyes. The two balls of sword light mixed with sword intent were like two balls of lightning, incomparably terrifying. Other than that, the exquisite spirit sword floating beside Yi Xian was also trembling violently, and the power it emitted directly minced the surrounding air. Seeing this scene, Bai Zai hesitated for a long time. He thought for a moment, then said softly, Bandit Yi is actually quite a good person. You should go beat up Mo Jinmao. After saying that, he turned around and left. He left without the slightest hesitation. Not long after, Bai Zai arrived at the bottom of a cliff. He raised his head and looked up. Above the cliff, a figure like a spirit ape was constantly jumping between the mountain walls. It was Emo Yinchi. The mountain wall was very steep, but Emo Yinchi walked as if he was walking on flat ground. Moreover, his speed was extremely fast, like a gust of wind. Bai Zai suddenly shouted, "Emo Jinmao, come down and fight one-on-one." On the mountain wall, Emo Yinchi paused slightly. In the next moment, his figure flashed and directly appeared in front of Bai Zai. Emo Yinchi sized up Bai Zai. Just as he was about to speak, Bai Zai went up and punched him. Bang! Caught off guard, Emo Yinchi was directly sent flying by this punch. However, he flashed a few times in the air and forcefully dissipated the power in Bai Zai's fist. Purely using speed to dissipate power. After Emo Yinchi landed steadily on the ground, he looked at Bai Zai and said angrily, "Big guy, are you itching for a beating? You." At this moment, Bai Zai suddenly rushed towards Emo Yinchi. Emo Yinchi's expression changed slightly, F***CK. "I will kill you." After saying that, his figure trembled and turned into a series of afterimages as he shot towards Bai Zai. Very quickly, the two of them once again fought. Bai Zai's power undoubtedly crushed Emo Yinchi's. However, Emo Yinchi's speed undoubtedly crushed Bai Zai's too. Emo Yinchi was also very smart. He did not fight head-on with Bai Zai. Instead, he used guerrilla warfare. For a moment, the two of them were unable to determine the victor. On the other side, in the bamboo forest, Yi Xian was still sitting cross-legged on the ground. His eyes were tightly shut and his entire body was trembling non-stop. Just like that, after an unknown period of time, he suddenly opened his eyes. In his eyes, two balls of sword radiance shot out like two bolts of lightning. Chi! In an instant, the bamboo in front of Yi Xian was instantly crushed into powder. As for Yi Xian, he fell straight down. The moment he closed his eyes, two balls of sword radiance mixed with endless sword essence quietly condensed in his eyes. Sword Eye. After experiencing countless failures, he finally succeeded in cultivating this sword eye. It could be said that this sword eye was a cultivation method and also a sword skill. As for one sword soul fixation, he did not want to cultivate this move that targeted the soul at the moment. It was better not to bite off more than one could chew. Cultivating the sword eye to the extreme was the way to go. Sword skills were not about quantity, but quality. After resting for an unknown period of time, Yi Xian slowly sat up. He was about to cultivate again when a figure suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. It was the 9th floor master. The 9th floor master had a panicked expression. "Young friend, there's news from Azure Province's Drunken Immortal Inn. The experts from Kuraki Academy and the Dark World are already on their way to Azure Province. They should be experts from the Divine Central Continent." Yi Xian stood up. "They're already here?" The 9th floor master said in a low voice, "This time, they should be here for your master." "Young friend, does your master need any help?" "Help?" Yi Xian smiled bitterly. Until now, the mysterious woman had not replied to him at all. He did not know whether she needed help or not. At this moment, an invisible pressure suddenly enveloped the entire Mount Azure below. As this pressure appeared, the 9th floor master's expression changed drastically. "They're here so quickly." Yi Xian looked up into the sky. In the air, 4 people had appeared. One was a black-robed old man, one was a white-robed old man, one was a middle-aged man with a great sword on his back, and one was an old man standing on a long bamboo. All 4 of them were above the peak of the myriad arts realm. Yi Xian's expression darkened as he asked inwardly, "Sister Sword Immortal? Someone is coming to beat you up. What do you think of this?" At this moment, within Yi Xian's body, at the top of the domain tower, one of the swords gently moved. In an instant, the entire domain tower shook as if there was an earthquake. Boom! In an instant, blood flowed from Yi Xian's orifices. Chapter 115. The ninth floor master's expression changed drastically when he saw Yi Xian bleeding from his 7 apertures. Young friend? Yi Xian hurriedly sat down cross-legged and waved his hand lightly. I'm fine. The ninth floor master hesitated for a moment and asked, Young friend, what happened to you? Yi Xian laughed bitterly. I encountered some problems in my cultivation. It's fine, it's fine. The ninth floor master had a rather strange expression. Cultivation? What cultivation? He actually caused himself to bleed from his 7 apertures. That's too terrifying. Yi Xian sat cross-legged on the ground and immersed his consciousness into his body. Senior? Did you do it? There was no response. Yi Xian had a rather awkward expression when he received no response. The white-robed old man from Kuraki Academy looked at the ninth floor master. Immortal indulgence in? The ninth floor master looked up at the old man. You are? The old man said indifferently, What? Does your immortal indulgence in intend to interfere until the end? They naturally did not underestimate the immortal indulgence in. After all, the immortal indulgence in's forces in the central divine prefecture were extremely formidable. If the immortal indulgence in really wanted to interfere, then they would have to worry about it. The ninth floor master was instantly placed in a difficult position when he heard the old man's words. The immortal indulgence in actually wanted to stand on the side of Yi Xian and his disciple because they were willing to pay a price to rope in a sword immortal and Yi Xian. However, the precondition was that Yi Xian's master spoke. If Yi Xian didn't speak, then they wouldn't dare act rashly. Because the stakes were truly too high. The ninth floor master looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth. Senior, you may leave for now. The immortal indulgence in was already very generous. The ninth floor master hesitated for a moment and was about to speak when Yi Xian said softly, If we really need your help, we will definitely not stand on ceremony with you. Now, senior, please retreat for the time being. This matter will have to be dealt with by us, master and disciple. The ninth floor master sighed softly. Young friend, if your master needs anything, then my immortal indulgence in will definitely do its best to help. With that, he turned around and disappeared. At this time, Mo Yinqi, Bai Zai, and Ji Anji arrived beside Yi Xian. When they saw the 4 people in the sky, the expressions of Mo Yinqi and the other 2 immediately darkened. These 4 people had completely exceeded the scope of their understanding. In the air, the white-robed old man and the others sized up Yi Xian's group of 4. In the end, the white-robed old man said softly, These 4 aren't bad. The black-robed elder beside him nodded. Very good. The bamboo old man also smiled as his gaze fell on Bai Zai. I never thought that there would be a half-demon here, and one that has awakened the power of his bloodline. Although he's only at the nether passage stage, I'm afraid that even divine combination stage experts can't do anything to him. The white-robed old man nodded. Not bad indeed. The toughness of this body is up to standard. Coupled with the power of his bloodline, he can be considered outstanding. Speaking of this, his gaze fell on Mo Yinqi again. Mo Yinqi hurriedly straightened his back. The white-robed old man frowned when he saw Mo Yinqi. Useless. Mo Yinqi almost went berserk. At this time, the white-robed old man's gaze shifted back to Mo Yinqi. This time, there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. Special physique? This is the light physique. Light physique. In the air, several people's gazes fell on Mo Yinqi. The 4 of them all had a hint of surprise in their eyes. In this world, some people were special. This special referred to talent, while some referred to physique. There were some special constitutions that could allow one to achieve twice the results with half the effort. And with Mo Yinqi's light physique, if he cultivated some Qigong cultivation techniques, it would be too heaven-defying. The bamboo old man suddenly smiled. Are you willing to join my dark world? If you are, I can spare your life today. Dark world. Obviously, in the bamboo old man's opinion, Mo Yunshi was very suitable to be an assassin. Indeed, if Mo Yunshi cultivated the ghostly cultivation techniques of the dark world, he would definitely be very heaven-defying. Seeing the bamboo old man openly recruiting Mo Yunshi, the white-robed old man and the black-robed old man were stunned. But very quickly, they felt relieved. The two of them looked at each other, then looked at Bai Zai. The white-robed old man said, "Are you willing to join my Kuraki Academy? If you are willing, I can spare your life today." Bai Zai and Mo Yunshi were stunned. Obviously, the two of them did not expect that they would be recruited. Bai Zai and Mo Yunshi looked at each other. Finally, Mo Yunshi raised his head and looked at the bamboo old man. He grinned. "Although I am very afraid of death and do not want to die, it is impossible for me to betray Sanglan Academy. Not in this lifetime." Bai Zai nodded. "I only recognized Sanglan Academy." Sanglan Academy. This place was their home. In the air, the bamboo old man said indifferently, "Staying here is equivalent to throwing your lives away. With the talent of the two of you, you will definitely have a good future." Bai Zai looked at Mo Yunshi. "Mo Yunshi, help me tell them that I will not leave Sanglan Academy. And tell them to scram." Mo Yunshi glared at Bai Zai. "Damn it. They are right there. Do you still want me to tell you?" Bai Zai said coldly. "I do not want to talk to them." Mo Yunshi was speechless. In the air, the white-robed old man shook his head. "Since you do not cherish this opportunity, then stay here and turn into dust." The bamboo old man nodded. "Don't force it. There are many geniuses out there." At this moment, the black-robed old man suddenly looked at Jianji. The bamboo old man, the white-robed old man, and the middle-aged man with a huge sword also looked at Jianji. Jianji was expressionless. He took out a bun and took 2 bites. After a while, the white-robed old man shook his head. "There is nothing special about him. However, he has comprehended the sword intent." Speaking of this, the few of them looked serious. He did not have any special talent but comprehended the sword intent. This seemed very ordinary, but it was not ordinary. Jianji came here with the most ordinary talent. This meant that no matter in terms of temperament or hard work, he was definitely the best. This kind of person was often the most terrifying. The white-robed old man looked at Jianji. "I think you will not leave Sanglan Academy. That's good. It saves us from wasting our breath." Then he turned around to look at Yi Xian, who was not far away. As the white-robed old man's gaze fell on Yi Xian, everyone's gaze fell on Yi Xian. Yi Xian. Without a doubt, he was the most dazzling person in Jiang country. He was even more dazzling than in Lanxiu. The white-robed old man and the others looked at Yi Xian and did not speak. At this moment, Yi Xian was expressionless. He looked very calm, but he was actually panicking. Because the mysterious woman had not responded at all. Yi Xian smiled bitterly in his heart. "Senior, these people are here for you. You can't ignore them." The mysterious woman still did not respond. Even though she did not respond, a piece of paper floated out from the second level. Yi Xian's expression changed drastically when he saw the piece of paper, and he hurriedly withdrew his consciousness and left the pagoda. "I can't afford to offend her. I can't afford to offend her." Yi Xian raised his head to look at the old man and the others. Meanwhile, the old man spoke flatly. "It's simply rare for someone at the peak of the Ascension realm to possess such a solid foundation. Not only have you comprehended sword intent, you've also comprehended battle intent. You cultivate both the sword and martial arts. Moreover, your physical body is so formidable. Rare indeed. With your strength, you'll at least be able to enter the top 10 of the martial rankings. If you attain the Nether Passage realm, you'll probably be able to enter the top 5. The black-robed old man nodded. "It's truly rare in the borders of Jiang country. It's rare even in the entire Pine Prefecture. Your strength will probably surpass Tuoba Fu of Ning Country in the future. When he spoke up to this point, he gazed at the bamboo old man. What do you think? The bamboo old man smiled indifferently. The more monstrous he is, the more he deserves death. The surroundings instantly fell silent. The white-robed old man and black-robed old man glanced at Yi Xian and remained silent. Death. They naturally wouldn't allow a person like Yi Xian to grow. In their opinion, if they couldn't become friends and instead became enemies, then they naturally had to eliminate Yi Xian to avoid leaving any future troubles. Right at this moment, the man with the huge sword on his back suddenly gazed at Yi Xian. What sword intent is that? Sword intent. Yi Xian shook his head. Actually, he really didn't know what sword intent it was, and he was very curious about it as well. Once the mysterious woman emerged, he would definitely get to the bottom of it. The problem was, when would the mysterious woman emerge? He really couldn't defeat these 4 people before him. Otherwise, he would have fucking drawn his sword a long time ago. In midair, the white-robed old man glanced at the surroundings. In the end, his gaze descended onto Yi Xian. Your master still hasn't shown himself? Yi Xian didn't answer him, and he spoke in a low voice in his heart. Sword Celestial Sister. Stop sleeping, wake up quickly. There's a fight. There was still no response. Yi Xian's face was filled with black lines. Wasn't this a trap for his disciple? In midair, the white-robed old man suddenly said, looks like we still have to exert some pressure on her. As soon as he finished speaking, his right hand pressed down towards Yi Xian and the other 3. Boom! A monstrous pressure descended from the sky like dozens of mountains, instantly causing Yi Xian and the other 3 to almost kneel down. However, the 4 of them forcefully endured it. However, almost instantly, blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. At this moment, the 4 of them couldn't breathe and felt as if their bodies were about to collapse. Yi Xian suddenly let out a furious roar, and a powerful battle intent surged out of his body. However, very quickly, this battle intent was forcefully suppressed back into his body by the pressure. Yi Xian stomped his right foot and his battle intent soared into the sky again. This time, apart from battle intent, there was also sword intent. The 2 intents merged into one and forcefully resisted the white-robed old man's pressure. The white-robed old man's eyes narrowed slightly, the combination of 2 intents. You're actually able to combine them like this. As he spoke, he pressed his right hand down. Crack. In an instant, the ground beneath Yi Xian's group started to crack inch by inch. However, Yi Xian's group of 4 forcefully resisted it, and none of them knelt down. The white-robed old man was about to attack again. However, Yi Xian suddenly raised his head and roared furiously, I'll fucking kill you. As soon as he finished speaking, he stomped his right foot against the ground and shot into the sky. He couldn't defeat the white-robed old man. However, Yi Xian intended to fight him. Even if he died, he intended to attack with this sword strike. A wisp of ridicule arose on the corners of the white-robed old man's mouth, and then he pressed his right hand down lightly. Bang! Yi Xian was instantly pressed down to the ground, and he just descended to the ground when the ground beneath his feet instantly split open into a deep pit that was over 10 m deep. The white-robed old man was just about to attack when a voice suddenly resounded, all of you were looking for me. The white-robed old man and the others swiftly turned their heads, and they saw a woman in a plain dress standing on a leaf in a bamboo forest in the distance. She had one hand behind her back, and there was a black and 100 tails of silver coiled around her fingertips. The white-robed old man and the others instantly became vigilant when they saw the woman. Meanwhile, the woman pointed at Yi Xian, close your eyes. I'm going to clear this place. As soon as she finished speaking, she stretched out her left hand and opened her palm, sword. The pagoda of purgatory within Yi Xian's body suddenly shook violently, and then one of the 3 swords at the top of the pagoda shook violently. Chapter 116. Just as the sword at the top of the pagoda trembled violently, Yi Xian's head seemed to have been struck by a heavy blow. His consciousness blurred and at the same time, blood flowed out of his 7 apertures. It was a terrifying sight. Mo Yunqi and the other two's expressions changed drastically when they saw this. They hurriedly supported Yi Xian. Just then, the lady in the plain dress pressed her left hand down lightly. "I'm not talking to you." Her voice faded away. The sword that was trembling in Yi Xian's body calmed down completely. However, before it calmed down, it let out a slight sword hum as if it was trying to express something. Above the bamboo forest, the lady in the plain dress opened her left hand. "Sword, come." As the plain-dressed woman's voice fell, swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The entire bamboo forest suddenly trembled. Very quickly, under the gazes of the crowd, the bamboo leaves soared into the sky and gathered towards the woman in the plain dress. These leaves fell into the palm of the woman in the plain dress. Very quickly, a sword that was condensed from countless bamboo leaves appeared in the palm of the woman in the plain dress. Seeing this, the expressions of the old man in white and the others changed drastically. Especially the swordsman who carried a huge sword on his back. What technique is this? I've never seen or heard of such a technique. Below, Mo Yunqi and the others were dumbfounded. Back then, they had seen the lady in the plain dress. When they saw the lady in the plain dress slaughtering everyone, they were already extremely shocked. However, they had never asked Yi Xian about the mysterious lady. Respect. Because they knew that when the time came, Yi Xian would definitely take the initiative to talk about it. Yi Xian raised his head and looked at the lady in the plain dress. Actually, just like everyone else, he was extremely shocked. The mysterious lady. She was really mysterious. From the beginning to the end, she was a mystery. He didn't know where the lady in front of him came from. All he knew was that she was very strong. Very strong. And every time the mysterious lady came out, the guy on the second floor would be extremely quiet. In the air. The old man in white and the others stared at the lady in the plain dress. At this moment, their eyes were filled with fear and seriousness. Although the lady in the plain dress didn't attack, they actually felt an invisible pressure. Especially that move of the woman in a simple dress, it caused the 4 of them to be incomparably fearful. Above the bamboo forest, the woman in the plain dress pointed her bamboo sword at the white-robed old man and the other 3. "Come, let's attack together." Attack together. The surroundings were so silent that even a pin drop could be heard. Down below, Mo Yun raised his right arm and lightly poked Yi Xian's arm. "Bandit Yi, where did you find this master? Introduce me to one, I'll go find one as well." Yi Xian said sternly, "You can't." "Why?" Mo Yunqi was puzzled. "Am I not handsome enough?" "Ugh." At the side, Bai Zhe made a very exaggerated gesture of vomiting. Ji Anji had originally taken a bite of the steamed bun, but after hearing Mo Yunqi's words, she actually spat out the steamed bun. It was truly a bit nauseating. Yi Xian patted Mo Yunqi's shoulder lightly. "I used to think that you were narcissistic, but I was wrong." "You're not narcissistic, are you blind, handsome?" "What do you have to do with this word?" Mo Yunqi, at this moment, the middle-aged man with a sword on his back suddenly walked over to the left of the woman in the plain dress. The man stared fixedly at the woman. "I know a little about the famous sword emperors and sword immortals of the Central Divine Continent, but I don't." The woman in the plain dress suddenly pointed her sword at Yi Xian below. "Listen carefully." Yi Xian looked up at the woman and listened seriously. The woman usually didn't like to speak, but when she did, it was absolutely very, very useful. The woman pointed her sword at the nearby middle-aged man. "We swordsmen never waste our breath. Since you've learned the sword from me, then you must remember this. If you can resolve it with your sword, then try not to waste your breath. Just do it." As she spoke, she clamped the green sword between her fingers on her left hand. In the next moment, the expression of the nearby middle-aged man changed drastically. In the blink of an eye, he suddenly drew his sword, and then a powerful sword intent shot into the sky from his body. Sword Emperor. It was a Sword Emperor from the Central Divine Continent. As soon as his monstrous sword intent appeared, everyone in the surroundings felt a strand of invisible pressure pressed down upon them. Yi Xian's eyes were closed tightly while his body emanated boundless sword intent and battle intent to resist the powerful sword intent. On the other hand, Mo Yinqi's group of 3 were by his side, and they were resisting the Sword Emperor's sword intent together. In midair, the middle-aged man held his sword close to the center of his forehead, and a strand of light flickered at the tip of his sword. In the distance, the woman who was about to attack suddenly stopped. Her back was still facing them, so no one here was able to see her appearance clearly, including Yi Xian. Up until now, he still hadn't seen her appearance. The middle-aged man stared fixedly at the woman in the distance. "Do you dare to resist a strike of my sword?" His voice rumbled like thunder and resounded through the sky. Force. Sword force. For the first time, Yi Xian had experienced the force of a swordsman. At this moment, the middle-aged man before him carried a strand of force, and it was an extremely formidable force that was much stronger than his own sword force. A truly formidable swordsman. The woman spoke indifferently. "You talk too much." As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly relaxed her left hand, and then the bamboo sword in her right hand suddenly flew out. It was an extremely ordinary attack. It was truly extremely ordinary. There was no sword force, no sword intent, and there wasn't even a sword glow. Anyone who witnessed it would only have a single thought in their mind: what an ordinary attack. However, at this moment, the middle-aged man's expression changed drastically. In the next moment, his figure leaped up and swiftly swung his sword down. As soon as this attack descended, countless rays of sword light, sword intent, and sword force instantly erupted like a volcano. This attack seemed like it could shatter the boundless world. Yi Xian and the others had extremely solemn expressions on their faces. If this attack descended onto Meteor Mountain, then the entire mountain would definitely be slashed into pieces. The Sword Emperor. This was the Sword Emperor. A single attack could split open a mountain, shatter the ground, and sever a river. He was a true peerless expert in the world. Where's the mysterious woman? Mo Yinqi and the others gazed at the mysterious woman's attack. The difference between the bamboo sword and the middle-aged man's attack was simply like the difference between the heavens and the earth. Or it should be said that the two of them couldn't be compared at all. However, when the bamboo sword arrived before the middle-aged man, hiss! Everyone watched as the bamboo sword shattered all the sword intent, sword force, sword light, and sword chi that the middle-aged man's sword emanated. In an instant, it was practically capable of destroying everything. Hiss! The bamboo sword suddenly stabbed into the center of the middle-aged man's forehead. The surroundings fell silent once more, and it was deathly silent. Instant annihilation? The eyes of the white-robed old man and the others were filled with disbelief, or it should be said that it was terror. Terror. It was actually an instant annihilation. That was a Sword Emperor. Even a Sword Immortal couldn't instantly annihilate a Sword Emperor with such ease. That was the reason why they were terrified. Even a Sword Immortal couldn't instantly annihilate a Sword Emperor, but the woman before them had. Who exactly is she? The white-robed old man and the others were completely dumbstruck at this moment. On the other hand, the 9th Pavilion Master of the Immortal Indulgence Inn shook his head and laughed bitterly in secret. Now he finally understood why the mysterious woman before him hadn't asked the Immortal Indulgence Inn for help. At the same time, he felt fortunate that the Immortal Indulgence Inn hadn't gone against Yi Xian to the death like Karaki Academy had, and they'd stopped in time and tried their best to rope Yi Xian in. Otherwise, the Immortal Indulgence Inn would have probably suffered a huge setback. This might even be the lightest punishment. Simply speaking, Karaki Academy was bloody unlucky. Right at this moment, everyone suddenly gazed at the middle-aged man in midair. The middle-aged man stared blankly at the woman while boundless sword intent surged out from within him. Moreover, the sword intent was actually growing stronger and stronger. A breakthrough. The white-robed old man and the others had astounded and disbelief on their faces. This middle-aged man actually intended to break through his sword Dao before his death. The middle-aged man suddenly grinned. So that's how it is. What a pity. As soon as he finished speaking, his eyes lost all color. On the other hand, the iron sword in his hand suddenly fell from midair and landed firmly on the ground. Yi Xian walked over to the iron sword without batting an eyelid, and then he picked it up and tossed it into the world prison pagoda. After that, he returned to the side of Mo Yunqi and the others. His expression was calm as if nothing had happened. Mo Yunqi and the others were speechless. In midair, the middle-aged man's body started to be obliterated inch by inch, and in the end, he transformed into nothingness. On the other hand, the green sword flew back into the hands of the woman in the plain dress. The woman in the plain dress held the bamboo leaf sword in her right hand, and her left hand lightly clamped the bamboo leaf sword down. She just stood there in the bamboo forest. She wore a plain dress while her long hair fluttered in the wind. She didn't speak a single word, and she gave others the feeling that she wasn't a woman of this world at all. No, even the legendary Nine Heavens probably didn't have such a woman. Right at this moment, the bamboo leaf sword suddenly flew over to Yi Xian, and Yi Xian's expression changed slightly. What's she trying to do? The woman's voice resounded abruptly. Do you know why he broke through just now? Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then shook his head. The bamboo leaf sword suddenly patted on Yi Xian's shoulder. Pa! Yi Xian's body trembled violently, and he almost cried out in pain. It hurt to the bones. In midair, the woman in the plain dress said coldly, "You only know how to pick up treasures. Look at you." Yi Xian was speechless. The woman in the plain dress's voice was still cold. If a person experienced death, he would instantly understand many things. This is the best process of enlightenment. What you lack now is the foundation and the comprehension of life. You need to comprehend these yourself, and others can't help you. Remember, you never know which will come first, tomorrow or an accident. Always treat today as your last day. Yi Xian hurriedly bowed deeply. Understood. Pa! Yi Xian's left shoulder was struck by the bamboo leaf sword again. Yi Xian jumped up in pain. I understand. In midair, the woman in the plain dress said indifferently, "You heard wrongly." Why, do you have an opinion? Yi Xian said with grievance, No opinion. The woman in the plain dress snorted, and then turned to look at the white-robed elder and the other two. She said angrily, "What are you looking at? Did I allow you to look?" As her voice fell, a bamboo leaf sword shot out like lightning. Chi! Beside the white-robed elder, the head of the black-robed elder flew out without any warning. Chapter 117. Stupefied. The white-robed old man and the bamboo old man were completely stupefied. Killed with a single strike. The black-robed old man hadn't even attacked, yet he was killed just like that. At this moment, both of them were shocked to the extreme. They knew that the person before them was a sword immortal. No, she might not even be an ordinary sword immortal. After all, sword immortals were divided into strong and weak. But the person before them was strong to the point that it exceeded their scope of understanding. How to fight? Just wait for death. Death didn't matter. What they were most worried about was Kuraki Academy and the Dark World. What if this mysterious woman wanted to take revenge? Could the Dark World and Kuraki Academy endure her revenge? Both of them were naturally panicking. After she killed the black-robed old man with a single strike, the woman in a plain dress pointed her bamboo sword at the black-robed old man and the black-robed old man. "Aren't you looking for me? Now, Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Yi Xian's face darkened. This mysterious woman is getting naughtier and naughtier. In the sky, the black-robed old man and the bamboo old man had extremely unsightly expressions. In the end, the white-robed old man said in a low voice, "We admit defeat." Admit defeat. Even a sword emperor was instantly killed. They weren't a match for her at all. The woman suddenly said, "Scram." Scram? The white-robed old man and the others were stunned. Tell them to scram? Not kill them? Yi Xian and the others were stunned as well. Why not kill them? Yi Xian said hurriedly, "Kill them." No. At this moment, the bamboo sword slashed down from the sky. Before Yi Xian could react, the bamboo sword struck his shoulder. Slap. The sound was very loud. Yi Xian was in so much pain that he almost cried. It was too painful. The mysterious woman said coldly, "Kill them? Go ahead. Go and beat them to death." Yi Xian was speechless. The mysterious woman pointed at the white-robed old man and the black-robed old man. "You can do whatever you want to those little fellows below. It's best if you kill them. But if someone 2 realms higher than them dares to attack them again, I'll let you know what it means to bully the weak. Now, get lost. What kind of rubbish is this? You're wasting my sleeping time every day." The white-robed elder and the bamboo elder looked at each other. In the end, the 2 of them bowed deeply to the mysterious woman, then turned around and left. However, before they left, the 2 of them glanced at Yi Xian and the others below. They finally understood. They could target Yi Xian and the others, but they could not bully the weak. Soon, the 2 old men disappeared at the end of the horizon. In the air, the mysterious woman suddenly pointed her sword at Yi Xian. "Follow me." With that, she floated down from the bamboo forest. Yi Xian hesitated. He didn't want to go because his intuition told him that it might not be a good thing. However, he knew that if he didn't go, it might be even worse. Yi Xian followed along, feeling like there was nothing left to live for. Behind them, Mo Yunqi and the other 2 looked at each other. Mo Yunqi said, "He might be beaten up." Bai Zai nodded. "Yes, he deserves it." Ji Anji said calmly, "He was beaten up, so he'll definitely come back to beat you guys up." Mo Yunqi and Bai Zai's expressions instantly became slightly unsightly. In the distance, outside the bamboo forest, the woman in a plain dress walked slowly in front of them while Yi Xian followed behind her slowly. The woman said indifferently, "Do you know why I didn't kill them?" Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, "Senior, please enlighten me." He didn't say that he didn't know, nor did he say that he knew. In any case, he might be beaten up no matter what he said. The woman raised her head and glanced at the sky. "Every time I attack, it's an extremely great burden to you. If I killed those 2 just now, then that stupid pagoda wouldn't be able to endure it, and you wouldn't be able to endure it either." Yi Xian fell silent. Actually, he'd expected it. Even though he looked very normal now, he knew that the mysterious woman before him had definitely helped him suppress the backlash. But this backlash would come in the end. The mysterious woman suddenly stopped. "Do you know that in this world, especially in some special places, some geniuses will have a Tao protector?" Tao protector? Yi Xian was puzzled. The mysterious woman said indifferently, "The so-called Tao protector is to protect the rise of this genius. The rise of any monstrous genius is basically protected by someone from behind, and if there's no one to protect them, then it's very easy for them to perish prematurely. Just like that Enlancio you encountered earlier. She had a Tao protector as well, but you were too weak and were utterly unable to sense it." Yi Xian fell silent. He glanced at the mysterious woman, hesitated for a moment, and then said, "Senior, you don't think too much about it." The mysterious woman said abruptly, "I'm not your Tao protector." Yi Xian was speechless. The mysterious woman walked slowly towards the distance while Yi Xian followed slowly. The mysterious woman walked slowly. Her dress was dragging on the ground, yet it didn't cause even a speck of dust to rise. When he saw the mysterious woman remain silent, Yi Xian didn't speak as well. After a short moment, the mysterious woman said in a light voice, "A swordsman's path isn't paved for you by others, nor is it paved for you by others. You have to walk it yourself. Since you've chosen this path, then you can only walk it on your own." When she spoke up to hear, she stopped and said, "I've fought too many times for you, and the seal of this pagoda has started to loosen layer by layer. I need to spend a lot of energy and time to suppress it." Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then he said, "Senior, with your strength." The mysterious woman said indifferently, "You want to ask why I was imprisoned in the pagoda with my strength, right?" Yi Xian hurriedly nodded because this was exactly what he wanted to know. The mysterious woman said coldly, "Why are you asking so many questions?" Yi Xian was speechless. The mysterious woman continued walking towards the distance. "Your younger sister was taken away?" Yi Xian nodded. The mysterious woman went silent for a moment before she said in a light voice, "She doesn't have a cold physique. She's rather special. If it's possible, you should find her before she attains the Dharma realm." "Why?" Yi Xian frowned. The mysterious woman said, "She's rather special. If she goes to that place to be trained, she'll definitely improve by leaps and bounds. That kind of improvement speed is very shocking. After attaining the Dharma realm, she needs to suppress it. If she doesn't suppress it, she'll be very strong in a short period of time, but in the future, there'll be great drawbacks. She's a good seedling, so don't let any flaws appear." Yi Xian nodded solemnly and said, "I'll go find her as soon as possible. However, Senior, The mysterious woman said indifferently, "You won't be able to understand what's so special about her. I'm also quite surprised that I can meet someone like her in this kind of place. As for what's so special about her, you'll naturally know in the future. In any case, it's a good thing, so don't be anxious." Yi Xian nodded, but he still had some thoughts in his heart. He didn't know if that girl was being bullied over there or not. The mysterious woman suddenly opened her right hand, and the bamboo leaf sword in her palms suddenly floated in all directions. Soon, the bamboo leaves all returned to the original bamboo. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian's face was filled with envy. "Senior, what's this move called? Can you teach me about it?" The mysterious woman placed her right hand behind her back and said, "The sword is in the heart. My heart contains the heavens and the earth, and the heavens and the earth are my sword. My heart contains the universe, and the universe is my sword. Your level is too low, so you won't understand." Yi Xian was speechless. The mysterious woman's figure gradually turned illusory. "There's another reason I didn't kill those two from before, and it's to deter some small fries. After this, I can't make a move before you find the second Tao law. Not only can I not make a move, but I can't even take a step out of the pagoda. Otherwise, you'll die and the pagoda will be destroyed. There's one more thing, that sword in Pine County must be retrieved from me within half a year. If you can't, then I'll break your legs." When she spoke up to hear, she seemed to have thought of something and said, "You better deal with that fellow that's imprisoned on the second level as soon as possible. No matter what method you use, it's best if you're able to make it follow you willingly. Otherwise, just wait for death." As soon as she finished speaking, she vanished completely on the spot. Yi Xian was speechless. After a short moment, Yi Xian was about to turn around and leave. Right at this moment, his expression changed drastically, and in the blink of an eye, his entire body fell to the ground while trembling violently. In the dark night, Yi Xian trembled violently, and his entire body was in an extremely twitching state. A Xiao Ta was faintly discernible between his brows. Backlash. Along with the disappearance of the woman in a simple dress, the backlash arrived once more. On the ground, Yi Xian twitched violently, and his entire face had warped into shape. At this moment, he felt as if his entire body was being twisted madly by a force. It was twisted. That sort of feeling was truly painful to the point of wanting to die. Fortunately, the woman in a simple dress didn't continue attacking after that, otherwise, the consequences would be even more severe. Right at this moment, Mo Yinqi and the others rushed over, and their expressions instantly turned grim when they saw the state Yi Xian was in. Mo Yinqi hurriedly supported Yi Xian up and said with a trembling voice, "Yi, bandit, are you all right?" Bai Zhe hurriedly poured out a gold sore pill for Yi Xian to consume. However, Yi Xian was still twitching violently, and he'd curled up into a ball in pain. Seeing this scene, the three of them panicked again. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly said with a trembling voice, I'm fine, I just need to rest for a while." Mo Yinqi and the others guarded Yi Xian like this until noon, when Yi Xian finally calmed down a lot, and his entire body was already drenched. All of it was sweat. It was from the pain. At night, Yi Xian's consciousness was completely awake. As for Mo Yinqi and the others, they didn't sleep for the entire night. With the support of Mo Yinqi and Ji Anji, Yi Xian stood up, and he smiled faintly, I'm fine." Mo Yinqi and the others didn't speak. Yi Xian's appearance just now was really a little scary. Right at this moment, 9th floor master suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian and the others, and 9th floor master said in a deep voice, "Little friend, your Tsanglan Academy's headquarters is here." Headquarters. Hearing this, Yi Xian and the others instantly frowned. Chapter 118. The Main Courtyard. Yi Xian's group was naturally aware of the academy's main courtyard. They exchanged glances, and then Mo Yinqi said in a low voice, "What are they doing here?" The 9th floor master shook his head and said, "I'm afraid they've come with ill intent." "They've come with ill intent." Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, "Let's go have a look." As soon as he finished speaking, he led Mo Yinqi and the others towards Storm Hall. The 9th floor master gazed at their backs, and then he hesitated for a moment before he followed them in the end. Even though he didn't want to interfere in the internal affairs of Storm Hall, he still wanted to help if it was possible. Presently, he wasn't trying to rope in Yi Xian on his side because he was extremely grateful for the guidance the mysterious woman had given him. After all, it was like giving him a new lease on life. Storm Hall. There were 3 young men standing before Yi Xian's group. All of them were young men. This caused Yi Xian's group to be slightly surprised. After all, they hadn't expected that all of them would be so young. The leader of the group was a man in an embroidered robe. His figure was ramrod straight, his gaze was icy cold, and he emanated an aura of being unapproachable. The other 2 men by his side wore ink-white robes, and it was the uniform of Storm Hall. Meanwhile, the man on the left of the man in embroidered robes suddenly walked forward. He glanced at Yi Xian's group, and then his gaze descended onto Yi Xian in the end. He said coldly, "Where's Ji Yun? Ask him to come out and answer me." Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly vanished on the spot. Slap. A clear and resounding slap resounded, and then the man who spoke was instantly blasted flying. The eyes of the man in embroidered robes instantly narrowed when he witnessed this scene, and then a formidable aura suddenly swept out from within him. Meanwhile, Bai Zhe suddenly stomped his right foot against the ground. Bang! The ground instantly collapsed while Bai Zhe's figure shot explosively towards the man in embroidered robes like an arrow that had left the bowstring. The man's pupils constricted slightly, and then he suddenly slapped his palm forward. This palm carried a strand of fierce force. Bang! His palm had just descended when his figure was blasted away, and then the ground behind him instantly collapsed. At the same time, a trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. The man glanced at his palm that was completely red, and then he gazed at Bai Zhe with disbelief in his eyes, the energy of a demon beast. "You actually possess the bloodline of a demon beast." Bai Zai did not answer the man in the brocade robe. Instead, he looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian nodded slightly. Only then did Bai Zai release his hand and retreat to Yi Xian's side. Bai Xian gazed at the man. I Don, I, Yi Xian, you, and I, and Yi, and Xian, you. Yi Xian, the man in embroidered robes stared fixedly at Yi Xian. The three of us are from the Central Divine Prefecture's main courtyard, yet you actually dare to treat us like this. Yi Xian walked slowly towards the three of them. Meanwhile, the man on the left of the man in embroidered robes was staring fixedly at Yi Xian, and his eyes were filled with undisguised killing intent. It was exactly that man who'd been slapped by Yi Xian just now. Bai Zai and Mo Yunqi instantly frowned when they noticed the killing intent in the man's eyes, and they were about to attack again. However, Yi Xian suddenly said, "Don't attack. We want to subdue them with virtue." Subdue them with virtue. The corners of Mo Yunqi's mouth twitched slightly. Subdue them? Is there anyone who doesn't know that you, Bandit Yi, are a violent maniac? Yi Xian gazed at the man in embroidered robes. Tell me why you've come. The man in embroidered robes stared fixedly at Yi Xian. We've come this time to let you know that you're not allowed to establish an academy with the name, Tsanglan Academy. Not only that, but all the students of your Tsanglan Academy are not allowed to cultivate the cultivation techniques and martial techniques of my Tsanglan Academy. In short, my Tsanglan Academy's main courtyard will not allow a Tsanglan Academy to appear in Azure Prefecture. Yi Xian nodded. I understand. All of you can go back. The man in embroidered robes frowned. You're brushing us off. Let Ji Yun speak. Yi Xian turned around and slapped him. The man in embroidered robes' expression changed drastically, and he raised his arm to block it. Bang! Yi Xian's slap struck the man's arm, and the man's entire body instantly trembled violently. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly pressed forward and struck his knee against the man's abdomen. Bang! The man in embroidered robes was instantly sent flying, and he landed heavily on the ground. Seeing that Yi Xian had suddenly made a move, the remaining two Tsanglan Academy students were about to make a move, but Mo Yunqi and Bai Zai were faster than them. Bai Zai directly charged towards one of the students, but Mo Yunqi was even faster. Bang 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 bang. A few breaths later, the two Tsanglan Academy students were heavily sent flying. Crushing. Without any suspense, it was a crushing defeat. The current Bai Zai and Mo Yunqi, after Yi Xian frantically provided them with cultivation resources, were much stronger than before. Especially Bai Zai, who had already reached the Nether Passage realm. That physical strength was enough to fight against a Divine Unity realm expert. Even though Mo Yunqi was still a step away from the Nether Passage realm, his speed had long surpassed the Nether Passage realm. In terms of speed, even Yi Xian couldn't catch up to him. Against Mo Yunqi and Bai Zai, if Yi Xian didn't execute a powerful sword technique like one sword determining life and death, he didn't have the confidence to win. In the arena, Yi Xian walked in front of the three people, and the three of them had a look of fear. The strength of Yi Xian and his group had completely exceeded their expectations. Yi Xian bowed slightly, and his eyes were still closed. Go back and tell the Tsanglan Academy headquarters that we don't need any help from the headquarters, and we don't want you to come here and tell us what to do. You are you, and we are us. Do you understand? The man in embroidered robes stared at Yi Xian. You used the words Tsanglan Academy. Yi Xian said indifferently, this academy was left behind by Elder Ji, and I won't change it. Now, the three of you, scram immediately. Also, go back and tell the Tsanglan Academy headquarters that in no time, the four of us will head over to the Tsanglan Academy headquarters to seek guidance from you. The man in embroidered robes sneered, with just the four of you? Yi Xian didn't answer, but turned around and left. The man in embroidered robes still wanted to say something, but Mo Yunqi suddenly said, Big brother, I beg you. Stop whining. If you continue, I'm afraid that Bandit Yi will end you with a sword. It doesn't matter to you in the end, but I'm afraid that you bastards have someone backing you up, and when the time comes, the strong will bully the weak again. It's 2F** king annoying. Listen to my advice, hurry up and scram, I'm doing this for your own good. After speaking, he, Bai Zai, and Ji Anji turned around and left. The man in embroidered robes and his group's faces were extremely ugly. It was simply a great humiliation. After a moment, the man in embroidered robes said fiercely, "Let's go back." After speaking, the three of them turned around and left. Not far away, the fifth building master looked at the back of the man in embroidered robes and his group, and sighed in a low voice, "Zhanglan Academy headquarters is also a group of fools." As he spoke, he took a glance at the Zhanglan Palace. With these kinds of students, don't tell me that their brains are stuck in the door. Naturally, he also knew that the Zhanglan Academy headquarters did not come to help Dao Yi too. Zhanglan Academy in Qingzhou had been in decline for too long. Of course, that was in the past, but now, with these four little guys, it was not difficult for this side to rise up. Even if the Zhanglan Academy here did not rise up, the future of Yi Xian and his group was also boundless. Previously, Yi Xian was more dazzling, but just now, in his opinion, in fact, Mo Yinqi, Bai Zai, and Ji Anji were not bad, or should be said to be very good, not to mention this country of Jiang, even in the entire Qingzhou. Unfortunately, the Zhanglan Academy's impression of this side was still the same as before. The ninth building master shook his head and sighed, then turned around and left. This kind of matter was also considered as an internal matter of Zhanglan Academy, outsiders really could not interfere. Inside the Zhanglan Palace, 4 people sat around the table. Mo Yinqi said in a low voice, "If those guys go back, I'm afraid that the Zhanglan Academy headquarters will soon come to find trouble with us." Yi Xian said softly, "It can't be avoided. What we have to think about is not whether they will come to find trouble with us, but how to become stronger. The 4 of us are strong enough, so we are not afraid of anyone coming to find trouble with us." Bai Zai nodded, "That's true." Yi Xian faced Mo Yinqi, "When will you reach the ethereal opening realm?" Mo Yinqi was silent for a moment, and then he said, "A month." Yi Xian shook his head, "Half a month. If you do not reach the ethereal opening realm within half a month, half of your food will belong to Bai Zai." Hearing this, Bai Zai hurriedly nodded, "Good, that's good." Mo Yinqi glared fiercely at Bai Zai, "Half a month it is." Yi Xian nodded, and then he faced Ji Anji, "What about you?" Ji Anji hesitated for a moment, and then he said, "A month." Yi Xian shook his head, "A roast chicken and a roast lamb leg every day." Ji Anji thought for a moment, and then he said, "Half a month." At this point, she raised a finger, "Add a pig's trotter, and you will reach the ethereal opening realm in 10 days. Yi Xian nodded, "Deal." Ji Anji nodded, "Deal." At the side, Mo Yinqi suddenly stood up and said angrily, "Bandit Yi, it's not fair, why? You." At this moment, Ji Anji suddenly looked at Mo Yinqi, and a knife had appeared in her hand. Mo Yinqi's mouth twitched, "Sister Ji, I don't mean anything else, I just have a problem with Bandit Yi, Yi Xian stood up, and he faced Mo Yinqi, "Although I am the dean, I do not care about individualism. Our Zhanglan Academy is very democratic, and everything can be decided by voting." As he spoke, he faced Ji Anji, "Who do you vote for?" Ji Anji said seriously, "You." Mo Yinqi, Yi Xian nodded, and then he faced Bai Zai, "What about you?" Bai Zai hesitated for a moment, and at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly said, "Add more food." Bai Zai hurriedly said, "You." Yi Xian turned to Mo Yinqi, 3 against 1, you lost. So, any objections you have are invalid. With that said, he turned and left. Ji Anji glanced at Mo Yinqi, and her expression was unfriendly. She took a bite of the bun, and then she also turned and left. Bai Zai lightly patted Mo Yinqi's shoulder, shook his head, and sighed, you are so silly. Mo Yinchi. Chapter 119. Cultivate. In the following days, the four of them began to cultivate crazily. As for the recruitment, the four of them had already chosen a date. Once the date arrived, Sanglan Academy would officially welcome its first recruitment in decades. With the help of the Jiang country's imperial family and the drunken immortal brothel, the news of Sanglan Academy's recruitment quickly spread throughout the country. Currently, countless people from the entire country were rushing to the imperial capital for Sanglan Academy's recruitment. Now that Sanglan Academy was no longer in the country of Jiang, Sanglan Academy was naturally the only choice. In addition, Yi Xian and the rest were extremely famous. Hence, countless people from all over the country of Jiang came, especially with the support of the drunken immortal brothel and the Jiang country's imperial family. Sanglan Academy, Back Mountain. In a bamboo forest, Yi Xian sat cross-legged on the ground with the exquisite spirit sword hovering beside him. Under his control, the sword intent and sword gleam converged towards his eyes. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian suddenly opened his eyes. Chi. Two sword gleams suddenly shot out from his eye sockets like two bolts of lightning. A few dozen feet away, two bamboos were cut at the roots. Sensing this scene, the corners of Yi Xian's mouth lifted slightly. Although he had cultivated the sword eye previously, he did not have the ability to control it. Now, he could accurately control the two sword gleams. However, it was still not enough. Continue to cultivate. In the following days, the four of them continued to cultivate crazily. Although Yi Xian was the dean, the rest of the matters of Mo Yinchi and the rest were taken care of by him. Every few days, Yi Xian would go down the mountain to prepare cultivation resources for Mo Yinchi and the rest. Apart from that, Sanglan Academy was constantly improving. This money was simply flowing out like water. However, for Sanglan Academy, for Mo Yinchi and the rest, this money was worth it. Moreover, he had never regarded this money as his own. Not only was he the dean of Sanglan Academy, but he was also the brother and big brother of Mo Yinchi and the rest. As the big brother, he naturally had to take good care of them. When it was time to hit, scold, and protect, he would protect with his life. Time passed bit by bit. There was less than a day left before Sanglan Academy's official recruitment. At night, Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the bamboo forest with his eyes closed. Lingxiu Jian was still by his side. Within a radius of 300 feet around him, the sword intent spread out like a net. Feel. At this moment, he was sensing everything around him. There were 3 steps in the eye of the sword, and he was now on the second step. Feel. He used his heart to feel the world. In the past, he used to see the world with his eyes, but now, he wanted to see the world with his heart. The eyes and the heart were 2 different concepts and also 2 different realms. The eyes could only see the surface, but the heart could see the essence. Yi Xian just sat there. He had been sitting there for a whole day. During this time, he felt the wind, the aura of the earth, the flowers, the trees, and even the clouds in the sky. In the past, when his eyes were still there, he had never carefully felt these things. The mysterious woman told him that as long as he was alive, he should be grateful to this world. At this moment, he suddenly understood what the mysterious woman meant. The third step of the sword eye was to think. The so-called thinking was actually comprehension. Sometimes, settling down and thinking quietly would be of great benefit to oneself. And he had indeed been too impetuous all these years. Under the moonlight, Yi Xian sat quietly. The surroundings were silent. On the other side, although Bai Zhe had reached the nether passage realm, he had never relaxed because he didn't want to be bullied by Mo Yinchi. If Mo Yinchi became stronger, he would definitely be the first to beat him. It wasn't shameful to be beaten by Bandit Yi, but it was too shameful to be beaten by Mo Yinchi. What Bai Zai needed to do now was to truly control the power of the demonic beast bloodline in his body. His current physical defense and strength could be said to be unparalleled in the same realm. And now, he didn't even have to fear facing a divine unity realm expert. Money. This was all forcefully piled up by money. During this time, he didn't stop taking elixirs and all kinds of top-grade tonics. He didn't even know how much money he had spent. Anyway, eating a body-tempering pill cost hundreds of thousands of gold coins. In the back mountain of Mount Azure below, Mo Yinshi ran wildly through the mountains. The number of metal balls on his body had increased. Work hard. Work hard. In this period of time, he could be said to be very sullen. Originally, being bullied by Bandit Yi was fine. Now, Bai Zai relied on his Nether Passage realm cultivation to challenge him one-on-one every day. It was called sparring, but in reality, it was to beat him up. This was intolerable. In the mountains, Mo Yinshi roared angrily and increased his speed. His speed was already faster than the wind. His physique was the light physique, but that didn't mean that he didn't need to cultivate. This physique could only be said to have brought him many innate advantages, but if he didn't work hard, he would still be ordinary. And his cultivation resources were also huge. Yi Xian specially found a type of elixir called the Wind Spirit Pill for him. This kind of elixir could stimulate the potential in his body, allowing him to use the surrounding wind to increase his speed. In addition, he also took the Spirit Gathering Pill. Because running consumed too much of his energy. If he didn't have this kind of elixir, he wouldn't be able to cultivate for so long in a day. Talent was important, hard work was important, but money was also important. It should be said that money was very important. In the kitchen, Ji Anji sat on a small wooden stool. To her left was a pile of wood, and in her hand was a knife as thin as a cicada's wing. At this time, she picked up a piece of wood beside her and placed it in front of her. Holding the knife in her right hand, she chopped down. Chi! The wood split in the middle. The cut was as smooth as a mirror. Her face was expressionless. Then, she took out a steamed bun out of nowhere and took a bite. Following that, she picked up another piece of wood and placed it in front of her. Then, she chopped down again. This knife was extremely fast. The entire piece of wood split in the middle. She didn't continue chopping. Instead, she took 2 bites of the steamed bun. Then, she took out a chicken leg out of nowhere. In the bamboo forest. Yi Xian still didn't leave. His sword intent still floated around him. He was already immersed in it. The current him could clearly feel everything around him. It was even more real than what he saw with his eyes. For the first time, he realized that there was nothing without eyes. Just like this, he didn't know how long he continued. Then, he retracted his sword intent and slowly stood up. Who? Yi Xian took a deep breath. At this moment, he felt extremely comfortable. Unprecedentedly comfortable. Sword eyes. It was also a belief in the sword Tao. It should be said that the sword techniques and cultivation methods that the mysterious woman had taught him were a belief in the sword Tao. Yi Xian opened his palm, and the Spirit Elegance sword flew into it. The Spirit Elegance sword trembled slightly as if it was responding. The degree of fusion was already at 100%. He could now truly utilize the full might of the Spirit Elegance sword. If he reached the Nether Passage realm, then ordinary divine combination realm cultivators wouldn't be a match for him at all. Unless the opponent was an extraordinary genius like Enlanxiu. Enlanxiu. When he thought of this woman, the corners of Yi Xian's mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly. Enlanxiu and Yi Ling were both in the divine central continent. Besides that, he also wanted to explore the divine central continent in the future and see even more extraordinary geniuses. A good man should aim far and wide. He should protect the people he cared about and sleep with the person he liked the most. Yi Xian laughed and put the Spirit Elegance sword away. As if he had thought of something, he entered the prison pagoda. Inside the prison pagoda, in front of him was the great sword that the Sword Emperor had left behind. The sword was extremely large, about 4 feet long, and as fast as 2 palms. It was completely black and exuded traces of red light. A black chain hung from the hilt of the sword. It was obvious that it was used to bind one's hand. The entire sword didn't have a sharp edge. And this sword was at least a light grade upper grade sword, 1 rank higher than the Spirit Elegance sword. Yi Xian was silent for a moment. In the end, he gripped the hilt of the sword with his right hand. However, he was shocked to discover that he actually found it difficult to lift the sword. Yi Xian circulated the profound energy in his body. The great sword trembled slightly, but it still didn't leave the ground. Yi Xian frowned. In the end, he gripped the great sword with both hands and forcefully lifted it. The sword trembled and left the ground by about an inch, but it quickly fell back down again. So heavy. Yi Xian's expression turned serious. The weight of this sword was truly somewhat beyond his imagination. Yi Xian was a little worried. Devour? He could devour this sword. If he devoured this sword, then he would be able to enter the Nether Passage realm immediately, and the Spirit Elegance sword might even be able to advance to the light grade upper grade. But that would be a waste of this sword. Even though he couldn't lift this sword now, it didn't mean that he wouldn't be able to in the future. As if he'd thought of something, Yi Xian left the World Prison Pagoda. At the same time, he moved the great sword out of the World Prison Pagoda. As he felt the great sword before him, Yi Xian gripped the hilt of the sword with both hands. He used the iron chain to bind his hands to the hilt of the sword, and then he squatted slightly. In next to no time, the word Earth appeared between his brows. Dao Law. He hadn't forgotten that he had the Dao Law as his trump card. The ground beneath Yi Xian's feet trembled violently. In next to no time, boundless energy of the earth converged towards him. A ferocious smile appeared on the corners of Yi Xian's mouth, and he suddenly lifted the great sword by relying on the energy of the earth. At this moment, the muscles on his arms bulged. As he held the great sword in hand, Yi Xian turned around and dashed madly all along the way, and the ground trembled with every step he took. In next to no time, Yi Xian arrived before a small mountain, and Mo Yunqi just happened to be running down from it. He was slightly stunned when he saw Yi Xian, and then he chuckled. Bandit Yi, you've come at the right time. I've just broken through into the Nether Passage realm. Come, let me beat you up. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly leaped up, and then he suddenly slashed his sword down towards the small mountain. Under Mo Yunqi's gaze, the small mountain crumbled with a loud bang. Not only that, but the ground within a 500-meter radius around the two of them cracked open in an instant. The earth trembled and the mountains swayed like a great earthquake. It was incomparably terrifying. Mo Yunqi gulped when he witnessed this scene, and he had a dazed expression. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly turned around to look at Mo Yunqi. Beat me up? Follow me down the mountain to buy something. Jianji did not refuse. He put away his saber and followed Yi Xian down the mountain. The sky was already bright. There were less than 4 hours before Sanglan Academy's official recruitment. On the street, Yi Xian and Jianji strolled slowly. Soon, Yi Xian and Jianji arrived at the Drunken Immortal Inn. The one serving Yi Xian was a woman named Xiao Gu. She looked delicate and pretty. She obviously knew Yi Xian's identity. Hence, she was very polite. Yi Xian smiled. Buying clothes. Xiao Gu glanced at Jianji and smiled. Young Master Yi, Miss Ji, follow me. With that, she led Yi Xian and Jianji to a place not far away. Yi Xian sat in a private room. Not long later, Xiao Gu brought Jianji to Yi Xian. At this moment, Jianji had already changed into a dress. At this moment, Jianji was wearing a dark green smoky robe and a green leaf skirt. It was neither too big nor too small. It was just fitting and made her slender figure look even more alluring. Although she was serious, she did not have that kind of cold aura. On the contrary, she gave off a feeling of weakness, making people want to approach her uncontrollably. Yi Xian smiled. Do you like it? Jianji nodded. I like it. Yi Xian smiled. It's good that you like it. With that, he turned to Xiao Gu who was beside Jianji. Also, give me a few sets of men's clothes according to my figure. Also, give me a few sets that are one size bigger than mine. He, Mo Yinchi, and Bai Zhe naturally had to change into better clothes. After all, there was an important occasion today. However, they were all men, so it was fine to be casual. Jianji was different. She was a woman. It was better to come out and try it on personally. Xiao Gu smiled. Understood. With that, she turned to leave. At this moment, Jianji suddenly said, more. Xiao Gu looked at Jianji. Jianji said, I want everything that you saw just now. Xiao Gu was stunned, then quickly said, all right. With that, she turned and left. Jianji sat in front of Yi Xian. She picked up a fruit from the table and started nibbling on it. After a while, she suddenly looked at Yi Xian. Why? Yi Xian was not stupid. Naturally, he knew what Jianji meant. He pondered for a moment, then said, I know. Previously, you wanted to bring back the corpses of the students from Tsang Mountain's Shaodao. You have been under a lot of pressure. Also, there is old Ji's revenge, his wish, and Sanglan Academy. Don't think too much. I will take care of everything first. Jianji looked at Yi Xian and did not say anything. Yi Xian continued, I gave the three of you a gold card. There is a lot of money in it. Don't be too harsh on yourselves. Especially you. You are so beautiful. You still have to buy clothes when you need them. With that said, he felt a little emotional. When old Ji was around, Sanglan Academy was really too poor. Until now, he realized that Jianji did not have more than 2 sets of clothes. Moreover, they were the very, very old kind. As for cultivation resources, although they were not lacking, they were definitely not much. It should be said that they were pathetically few. Yet, she had cultivated to this level. It was hard for him to imagine how this woman in front of him managed to do so in the past. Jianji bit the apple and did not speak. At this time, Xiao Gu brought a large box into the private room. Yi Xian kept the box in the prison pagoda. He was about to pay when Xiao Gu quickly said, Young Master Yi, I dare not accept your money. These are all free gifts from our drunken immortal inn to young Master Yi. I hope young Master Yi does not refuse. Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. That won't do. Friendship is friendship, but I still have to pay. Otherwise, I will not buy anything here. As he said that, he took out a money bag and handed it to Xiao Gu. I think this should be enough. Xiao Gu was a little hesitant. Yi Xian had already turned and left with Jianji. Xiao Gu quickly went to send them off. On the street, Yi Xian walked slowly while Jianji followed slowly. It was unknown when she had a chicken drumstick in her hand. Neither of them spoke as their shadows grew longer and longer. An hour later. A red sun slowly rose from the horizon. A new day had begun. On this day, countless people rushed towards Sanglan Academy. Entered Sanglan Academy. Without a doubt, this was the goal of countless youths in the country of Jiang. Now, the entire country of Jiang no longer had Karaki Academy. If these youths wanted to stand out, joining Sanglan Academy was undoubtedly a good choice. One had to know that entering the academy meant that there would be someone to teach them and also cultivation resources. On this day, the foot of Jiyun Mountain was filled with a sea of people. There were too many people. When Yi Xian and the other three looked down from the mountain, they were already stunned. The four of them did not expect that there would be so many people. Beside Yi Xian, Mo Yinchi suddenly said, "Yi, Bandit Yi, there are too many people." Yi Xian smiled. Good news. A large number of people represented the reputation of Tsanglan Academy. Mo Yinchi nodded and said with some excitement, "I didn't expect that I, Mo Yinchi, would also be a mentor." Mentor. Tsanglan Academy did not have any experts overseeing it. Therefore, the four of them were all mentors. Apart from being mentors, the four of them were also responsible for some other matters in Tsanglan Academy. In any case, wherever there was a shortage of people, the four of them would go there. Today, the four of them specially dressed up, especially Ji Anji. She was originally good-looking, and now that she was wearing a brand new dress, she was even more beautiful. Looking at the increasing number of people below, Yi Xian said softly, "If only old Ji was still here." Old Ji. Hearing this, the smiles of Mo Yinchi and the other two instantly froze. Ji Anji clenched her fists tightly and did not speak. After a moment, Yi Xian looked up at the sky. "Old Ji, watch carefully. In the future, Tsanglan Academy will become the best academy in Qingzhou. No, the best academy in the entire firmament world." After saying that, he walked down the mountain. Mo Yinchi and the other two followed closely. Soon, Yi Xian and the other three arrived at the foot of the mountain. When they saw Yi Xian and the other three, the crowd instantly became excited. Some people even started to call out the names of the four. Beside Yi Xian, Mo Yinchi put his hands behind his back and looked serious. Bai Zai also straightened his back and looked very serious. Ji Anji's right hand was hidden behind his back. In his hand, there was a chicken drumstick. Yi Xian suddenly raised both of his hands slowly and then gently pressed down. In an instant, the crowd instantly became quiet. Yi Xian took a step forward. Mo Yinchi subconsciously wanted to take a step forward, but was pulled back by Bai Zai. Bai Zai glared at Mo Yinchi. "Bandit Yi wants to speak, why are you causing trouble?" Mo Yinchi, below, everyone was looking at Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled slightly. "Welcome everyone to Tsanglan Academy. I am Tsanglan Academy's dean, Yi Xian. Today, my Tsanglan Academy is recruiting 30 students. These 30 students must go through 3 rounds of assessment. Those who pass the assessment will immediately become our academy's student. Of course, after the quota is filled, there are still people who can pass the 3 rounds of assessment. They can also enter my Tsanglan Academy." Hearing that, countless people below instantly cheered. Hearing this, countless people below instantly cheered. Since Yi Xian said that, there was no doubt that they had a few more chances. Yi Xian smiled and continued. "The assessment will be handled by our academy's mentor, Mo Yinchi. Now, let him explain to everyone." After saying that, he stood to the side. Mo Yinchi took a deep breath. He took a step forward and looked at the dense crowd below. Mo Yinchi felt his heart beating faster. Mo Yinchi took another deep breath and forcefully suppressed the nervousness in his heart. He smiled slightly. "Hello everyone, I am Mo Jiaomao." Saying this, he suddenly stopped as if something was wrong. Everyone. Chapter 121. Mo Yinchi. As soon as these 3 words were spoken, the surroundings suddenly quietened down. So quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. At this moment, Mo Yinchi was completely stunned. What did I say? He looked at Bai Zai, and Bai Zai looked at him with a strange expression. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly stood out. "Everyone, please don't take offense, Instructor Mo really likes to joke." Mo Yinchi hurriedly said, Right, a joke, a joke." Hello everyone, I am Tsanglan Academy's Instructor Mo Yinchi. Everyone can call me Instructor Mo in the future. The assessment this time is divided into 3 stages, and I will be presiding over all 3 stages. I hope everyone will work hard. Examiner. Hearing this, the countless people below hurriedly withdrew their smiles. This was someone they absolutely could not offend. Yi Xian stood out once again. The assessment begins. The first stage was the great waves washing the sand. There was a huge formation beneath Sanglan Mountain, and this formation was set up by the drunken immortal brothel and Jianghua. The purpose of this formation was to test the endurance of these people. To be more precise, it was to test their strength, and it had the effect of the great waves washing the sand. Because there were truly too many people. And amongst these people, there would definitely be a lot of strength. As soon as Yi Xian's voice resounded, a shapeless pressure suddenly enveloped the crowd below. At the beginning, it was still fine, but gradually, many people were unable to hold on any longer. Before long, some people had already started to withdraw. At this moment, a middle-aged man and old man suddenly arrived before Yi Xian and the others. Yi Xian was stunned. He knew this middle-aged man and old man. These 2 people were none other than Qingqing's Li family's patriarch, Li Yu, and Zhang family's patriarch, Zhang Lai. Yi Xian hurriedly walked before the 2 of them. Seniors, why have you come? Seeing that Yi Xian still recognized them, Li Yu and Zhang Lai were obviously slightly excited, and they hurriedly bowed deeply. Greetings, Dean Yi. Yi Xian shook his head. Seniors, please don't be like this, just call me Yi Xian. Although he had fought many battles with these 2 families when he was the heir of the Yi clan, he had never forgotten the help these 2 and the city lord Jiang Nian had given him and his sister when they left Qingqing. Seeing how amiable Yi Xian was, the smiles on Li Yu and Zhang Lai's faces widened. Li Yu cupped his fists and said with a smile, this time, the 2 of us have brought our clan's juniors to participate in Sanglan Academy's recruitment. Oh. The corners of Yi Xian's mouth lifted slightly. Who are they? Li Yu pointed at 2 men in the distant crowd. It's those 2, they both want to join Sanglan Academy. Yi Xian smiled and said, I can't practice favoritism. Li Yu quickly said, if they can't rely on their own ability to enter Sanglan Academy, then it's their own fault. Zhang Lai also laughed, yes, they are all proud of you. If you were to open the back door for them, they would not be willing. Right now, almost everyone in Qingqing was proud of Yi Xian. The entire city was famous in the country of Jiang. Yi Xian smiled, the men of my city should have such backbone. Li Yu hesitated for a moment and hesitated to speak. Yi Xian asked, what's wrong? Li Yu sighed softly, the city governor, Jiang Nian, has passed away. Passed away? Yi Xian frowned slightly, why? Li Yu said in a low voice, Brother Jiang failed in his breakthrough and suffered backlash, and he died 3 days ago. However, according to our guesses, he might have been assassinated. Yi Xian's brows knit together even more tightly when he heard this, assassinated? Li Yu nodded, it might be his brother, Jiang Gu. Because he became the city governor after Brother Jiang perished. Moreover, Brother Jiang's wife and son were driven out of the city governor's estate. If it wasn't for the help of our clans, they would have probably died a violent death by now. Yi Xian fell silent for a moment, and then he said, once the 2 of you return, I'll notify the king to send someone to Qingqing to investigate this matter and give Senior Jiang Nian justice. Li Yu and Zhang Lai bowed deeply to Yi Xian when they heard this. Yi Xian sighed with emotion. He hadn't been in Qingqing for long, yet the city had probably changed. Meanwhile, Li Yu hesitated for a moment and said, actually, someone from your Yi clan has come to participate in the recruitment of Azure Snow Academy as well. Yi Xian was stunned when he heard this. Someone from the Yi clan has come as well? Li Yu pointed at a young girl in the nearby crowd. The young girl was around 17 or 18 years old, wore a tight dress, and had a small braid on the back of her head. At this moment, her fists were clenched tightly while she gritted her teeth, and sweat was already dripping down her face. Yi Xen? Yi Xian frowned slightly. He naturally knew the young girl. She was the granddaughter of the Yi clan's elder, Yi Qing. He'd met her a few times while he was in the Yi clan, but they didn't have much of an interaction. Li Yu glanced at Yi Xian and said softly, "The Yi clan isn't doing very well now." Yi Xian shook his head. "I have nothing to do with the Yi clan anymore." Li Yu sighed softly when he heard this. The more outstanding Yi Xian was, the more miserable the Yi clan was. Presently, the Yi clan was practically the laughingstock of the entire state of Jiang. Yi Xian suddenly said, "Seniors, would you like to have a drink or two with me?" Li Yu hurriedly shook his head. "No, no. We'll stay here and accompany those two little fellows." Yi Xian smiled and said, "All right, I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll be taking my leave first." Li Yu smiled and said, "Go ahead." Yi Xian nodded, and then he turned around and left with Ji Anji and Bai Zai. Li Yu sighed softly as he watched Yi Xian leave. He's still very loyal. "Brother Jiang Nian, you can rest in peace." Zhang Lai nodded. "Our choice was right at that time, and this Yi clan." "Sigh," Li Yu said indifferently, "they brought this upon themselves, so they can't blame anyone." Yi Xian brought Ji Anji and Bai Zai back to the Kanglan Hall, while Mo Yunqi was still in charge of the examination below. The three of them sat around the table. Yi Xian faced Ji Anji and said, "I asked the Drunken Immortal restaurant to help me find a group of chefs. You'll be in charge of these chefs." Ji Anji hurriedly nodded. "All right." At this moment, Bai Zai suddenly said, "Bandit Yi, do you want to hire some handymen to take care of the students' daily lives?" Yi Xian shook his head. "There's no need. All the students will deal with their daily lives, such as washing clothes, and other messy matters. They came here to cultivate, to learn, not to enjoy themselves." Bai Zai thought for a moment. "All right." Yi Xian continued, "Old Bai, there will be some erudite scholars coming later. Although these people aren't strong, they are very knowledgeable. You'll be in charge of taking good care of them. Also, later tell Mo Yunqi that the students must show sufficient respect to these scholars. Otherwise, they will be expelled from the academy and never to be hired again. Not only the students, but we also have to show respect to these scholars. Don't be rude." Bai Zai nodded. "All right." Yi Xian said softly, "To cultivate, one must first cultivate the person. The students are like this, and so are we." Bai Zai hesitated for a moment and said, "Bandit Yi, do you really want our Kanglan Academy to become the largest academy in the Azure Firmament world?" Yi Xian nodded. "If we're going to do it, let's do it big." Bai Zai glanced at Yi Xian. "All right, if we're going to do it, let's do it big." Ji Anji glanced at Yi Xian and didn't say anything. Time passed very quickly. Very quickly, it was night time. All the students had basically completed their examinations. A total of 42 people passed all the examinations. In front of Kanglan Hall, Mo Yunqi led the 42 people to the front of Yi Xian's group. The 42 people bowed to Yi Xian in unison and said in unison, "Greetings, Dean." Yi Xian nodded slightly. "Entering my Kanglan Academy means that everyone is one of us in the future. There are no rules for the academy for now, but it will be made soon. As for the cultivation mentors, there are only 4 of us for now. In the future, we will recruit more good mentors. For now, all of you just have to put up with it." Hearing this, many students below couldn't help but laugh. Yi Xian turned to look at Bai Zai. "Are those scholars here?" Bai Zai was about to speak. At this moment, not far away, 3 people slowly walked over. 2 old men and a woman. The woman sat in a wheelchair and wore a black dress. This woman, Yi Xian recognized. It was State Preceptor Lu Zhaoge. Yi Xian was stunned. Then he hurriedly went over to welcome her. "State Preceptor Lu, you?" Lu Zhaoge smiled. "Am I not welcome?" Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. Of course you are welcome. However, are you sure you want to be my Kanglan Academy's mentor? Let me say this first. The remuneration isn't high. Lu Zhaoge chuckled. It's fine. As she spoke, she gently gestured to the two old men beside her. These two are Senior Mo Yuan and Senior Feng Lan. They are both academic experts. Yi Xian hurriedly led Bai Zai and the other two to bow deeply to the two. Seeing Yi Xian and the other three being so polite, the two old men also smiled. They also cupped their fists and bowed to Yi Xian and the other three. Yi Xian smiled. Seniors, State Preceptor Lu, the two of you are responsible for the students' academic lessons. As for what to teach, the two of you can decide. Mo Yuan sized up Yi Xian. Old man has a question. Yi Xian smiled. Senior, please ask. Mo Yuan said, why do we have to arrange academic lessons? According to my knowledge, Sanglan Academy and Kanglan Academy cancelled academic lessons a few hundred years ago. Yi Xian pondered for a moment and said, a person shouldn't only be judged by strength. In this world, strength is very important, but being a person is equally important. Mo Yuan nodded slightly. It's rare for you to have such thoughts. Yi Xian cupped his fists to the three of them. Sanglan Academy has just been rebuilt, and there are still many inadequacies. If we have neglected you in any way, I hope the three of you can forgive us. Mo Yuan shook his head. These are all trivial matters. However, the matter of the books, Yi Xian smiled. Don't worry. I've already asked the Drunken Immortal Pub to collect all sorts of books. When the time comes, I'll hand them over to the three of you to deal with. Mo Yuan lightly stroked his beard. That's good. Yi Xian led the three of them over to the group of students. He said with a serious expression, these three seniors will be my Sanglan Academy's mentors in the future. They will be responsible for your academic lessons, and they will set up the tests. If you can't pass the academic lessons, then you will be expelled from Sanglan Academy after 2 failures and will never be hired again. Academic lessons? The students below were dumbfounded. Yi Xian asked again, is there a problem? If there is, then come out and we'll fight one-on-one. Everyone, Mo Yinqi's mouth twitched. This bandit. Seeing that no one spoke, Yi Xian nodded. He was about to speak when suddenly, a laugh came from afar. We have a problem. Everyone looked over. Not far away, 4 people were slowly walking over. The leader was a man in a luxurious robe. He held a folding fan in his hand, and a smooth white jade was tied around his waist. The man in the luxurious robe sized up Yi Xian and smiled. So the dean of Sanglan Academy is blind. TSK. Oh, you asked if I have a problem. I have a problem. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the man in the luxurious robe. The latter's expression changed drastically. Just as he was about to retreat, a sword directly pierced through his forehead. Everyone in the surroundings was stunned. Sheathing the sword, Yi Xian said indifferently, you have a problem? Sorry, I don't want to hear it. Chapter 122. The place was silent. All the students stared blankly at Yi Xian. Wasn't this dean too domineering? Bai Zai and Mo Yinqi were calm. They were very familiar with Yi Xian's character. This fellow was extreme. If you treated him well, he would treat you very well. However, if you were to become his enemy, he would kill without batting an eyelid. Not far away, Mo Yuan and Feng Lan glanced at Yi Xian without saying anything. Yi Xian sheathed his sword and faced the remaining 3 people. At this moment, the 3 of them were horrified and kept retreating. He killed someone just like that? Are you kidding me? Most importantly, he killed someone just like that? The three of them were horrified. Yi Xian faced the three of them. Do you have any questions? He wasn't a homicidal maniac, but these people obviously didn't come with good intentions. Since they came with bad intentions, he naturally had to kill them. In front of Yi Xian, the three of them looked at Yi Xian with fear in their eyes. At this moment, one of them said in a deep voice, "The four of us are from Chu. This time, we came to confirm whether our Chu's third prince died in your hands in the mystic realm." Chu's third prince? Yi Xian frowned slightly. Soon, he remembered. It was the silver-armored man. Yi Xian nodded. "He died in my hands." "Why, do you have any questions?" "Questions?" The three's faces twitched. At this moment, they naturally wouldn't force themselves or say anything. The three of them didn't say anything and turned to leave. "Wait," Yi Xian suddenly said. Hearing this, the three's expressions changed. The three of them turned to look at Yi Xian. Yi Xian pointed at the corpse on the ground. "Take it away." The three of them didn't dare to say anything. They carried the corpse and left. Yi Xian turned to the students of Tsanglan Academy. "Study well and cultivate well." After saying this, he turned and walked away. In the field, the students looked at each other. At the side, Feng Lan shook her head. "Too vicious." Lu Jioga shook his head. "Elder Feng is wrong." Feng Lan looked at Lu Jioga. Lu Jioga said softly, "He's intimidating us." "Intimidation?" Feng Lan frowned. "I think it's making enemies for no reason." Lu Jioga smiled and said, "If I'm not wrong, the drunken immortal brothel should have informed him of the identities of these four people in advance. In other words, he already knows that this matter cannot be resolved peacefully. Since there was no way to resolve this peacefully, he chose to use the most direct method to deal with this matter." Feng Lan said in a low voice, "There's a sword immortal behind him. Has the Chu country gone crazy?" Lu Jioga said with a smile, "He has a sword immortal backing him." Elder Jiang, 9th floor lord, "The people from the Dark World and Kuraki College's headquarters know, but do the others know? The rest of the people who know are all dead." Feng Lan fell silent. Lu Jioga said softly, "The two of you, your Confucian school was nearly wiped out in the firmament world in the past. If you want to rise again, you must change your way of thinking. As for this Dean Yi, he might be your best choice." The two fell silent. Lu Jioga leaned back on his wheelchair and said, "He sincerely wants to establish Azure Billow College, and he doesn't wish for the people in his college to only know how to cultivate. This can be said to be your chance." Mo Yuan glanced at Lu Jioga. "What about you? What are you militarists plotting?" "Jiangzhou." Lu Jioga smiled slightly and did not speak. Inside Azure Billow Hall, Yi Xian and company sat around a table. Yi Xian's right hand gently tapped on the table. He did not speak. At this moment, Mo Yunqi suddenly said, "Those two elders are not simple." With that said, he looked at Bai Zai. "Where did you find them?" Bai Zai smiled sheepishly. "It was Imperial Preceptor Lu who helped me find them." "Imperial Preceptor Lu." Mo Yunqi looked at Yi Xian. "Bandit Yi, what do you think?" Yi Xian fell silent for a moment. He said, "Everything will remain the same. We just need to be careful." Mo Yunqi nodded. "That's all we can do." Yi Xian said, "From now on, the four of us will take turns teaching these students besides cultivating. Also, you will be in charge of the distribution of cultivation resources." Ji Anji nodded. Yi Xian pointed at Mo Yunqi and Bai Zai. "The two of you, your current goal is to build a good foundation for the Nether Passage realm and then break through to the Divine Unity realm. We still have many things to do." Mo Yunqi nodded. "Understood." Yi Xian stood up. "In half a year, I will head to Azure Prefecture's Great Cloud Empire. In a year, we will head to the Divine Central Continent. Do you have a problem kowtowing to Grand Master?" Mo Yinchi hesitated and then said, just kowtowing? Yi Xian shook his head. There's no need to think about it. We will fight first, then kowtow. Mo Yinchi smiled bitterly. Are we going to attack Azure Prefecture first, then the Divine Central Continent? Yi Xian slowly clenched his right hand. Since the strong are respected in this world, then we will be the strong. Mo Yinchi slammed the table and said angrily, yes, be the strong. Damn it, Kanglan General Academy looks down on us. We will let them know that we are stronger than them. We will fight for Old Man Ji. Baizhe also slammed his palm on the table, but this slap directly smashed the table into pieces. Baizhe, Mo Yinchi glanced at Baizhe. What are you trying to say? Baizhe said solemnly, fight Kanglan General Academy. Fight them. Even if they don't fight us, we will still fight them. Not for anything else, just to fight for our honor. Yi Xian nodded slightly. Cultivate well. I hope that in the future, no matter who walks at the forefront, when we look back, we will all still be here. Finished speaking, he turned and walked outside. Yes, my Jiang country intends to protect him. The middle-aged man stared fixedly at Jiang Yuan. Jiang country doesn't hesitate to become enemies with Chu country for the sake of Yi Xian? Jiang Yuan spoke indifferently. My Jiang country has no intention of becoming enemies with Chu country. However, Yi Xian is a member of my Jiang country. My Jiang country won't allow anyone to touch him. The middle-aged man's expression instantly became unsightly when he heard this. Obviously, he hadn't expected that the Jiang country would protect Yi Xian like this. None of the ministers in the hall said anything. They naturally knew of Yi Xian. He was a miraculous young man who'd personally annihilated Kuraki Academy. Even an idiot would know that he wasn't simple. The middle-aged man sneered. Jiang country. Just you wait. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. Within the hall, Jiang Yuan spoke indifferently. Send someone to Tsanglan Academy and tell Lord Yi to be careful of Chu country's dirty tricks. Yes. Chu country. Chu country was situated at the north of Jiang country, and it was quite far away from Jiang country. Because of this, there hadn't been any conflict between Chu country and Jiang country. Chu country's imperial palace. Bang! A muffled sound suddenly resounded within the hall, and then a furious shout suddenly resounded. Jiang country. The person who spoke was a middle-aged man in a dragon robe. This middle-aged man was the king of Chu country, Chu Zhaotian. A beautiful woman in palace attire stood by Chu Zhaotian's side, and her eyes were filled with tears. Your Majesty, Han must be avenged. Otherwise, how would he be able to rest in peace? Chu Zhaotian stared fixedly at the middle-aged man before him. Jiang country really intends to protect him? The middle-aged man hurriedly nodded. Yes. The king of Jiang country even spoke arrogantly. He said that if Chu country dared to touch Yi Xian, he would definitely make Chu country pay a terrible price. Good. Very good. Chu Zhaotian's expression was slightly savage. Jiang country. They actually didn't hesitate to go to war with Chu country for Yi Xian. Right at this moment, an old man in the hall spoke abruptly. Your Majesty, I'm afraid this matter isn't simple. Chu Zhaotian gazed at the old man, and the old man spoke in a low voice. I've already investigated. That young man, Yi Xian, isn't an ordinary person. Be careful of his age. Even though he's only at the Ascension realm, he's already capable of killing Netherpassage realm experts. Besides that, all those geniuses that went to the secret realm that day, including Dian Granary Academy's Gan San, died at his hands. Gan San. Chu Zhaotian's expression instantly became solemn when he heard this. That's a genius on the martial rankings. The old man continued. Besides that, according to the old man's investigation, Jiang Country's Granary Academy has already been annihilated. Even though it was assisted by the Jiang Country's imperial family and the drunken immortal inn, it's undeniable that this young man is definitely not simple. Otherwise, those two powers wouldn't have helped him like this. According to the old man's inference, there's definitely a great power or an extraordinary expert standing behind him. Chu Zhaotian gradually calmed down. Continue. The old man bowed slightly. Gan Shirsan was a top student of Dian Granary Academy. Since he was killed, how could Dian Granary Academy let the matter rest? But until now, that young man and those students from Tsanglan Academy are still alive and well. This is already abnormal. Besides that, those geniuses that went to the secret realm that day all have some great powers behind them. These powers have all sent people to Jiang Country to take revenge, but until now, there's no news of them at all. Chu Zhaotian slowly clenched his fists tightly. Have you found out who's behind him? The old man shook his head. There's no clue at all. Your Majesty, this person is extremely not simple. The old man suggests that we really shouldn't provoke him. Then Han died just like that? At this moment, the beautiful woman in palace attire nearby suddenly spoke angrily. The old man glanced at the beautiful woman in palace attire and didn't speak. Chu Zhaotian's expression was extremely gloomy, and no one knew what he was thinking. The beautiful woman in palace attire still wanted to say something, but Chu Zhaotian glared at her. The beautiful woman instantly didn't dare to say anything and just sobbed incessantly. A moment later, Chu Zhaotian looked at the old man not far away. You can't find anything at all? The old man shook his head. I've already used all the spies, but found nothing. Chu Zhaotian's expression instantly darkened. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from outside the door. How can I not avenge the death of my son? Chu Zhaotian looked over and saw a man in black robes standing outside the door. In an instant, more than a dozen golden armored guards appeared in the main hall. The man in black robes said indifferently, I'm from Tang Country, representing my country's king. Chu Zhaotian frowned slightly. Tang Country? The man in black robes smiled. My country's king asked your country on my behalf if you want to divide up Jiang Country. Chu Zhaotian sneered. Do you think we can divide up just because you say so? The man in black robes smiled. What if Great Cloud Realm's Kuraki Academy takes action? Chu Zhaotian's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard this. The man in black robes smiled. There are indeed people standing behind Yi Xian. However, Great Cloud Realm's Kuraki Academy has already agreed that they'll deal with the people standing behind Yi Xian. We just have to march straight into Jiang Country. At that time, a single Yi Xian will be as easy as crushing an ant before our army. Chu Zhaotian stared fixedly at the man in black robes. How can I believe you? The man in black robes tapped with his finger, and a command token appeared before Chu Zhaotian. The command token was carved from a piece of wood, and the words Great Cloud were written on the north side while the words Kuraki Academy were written on the front. Great Cloud Realm would command token. Chu Zhaotian still shook his head. One command token isn't enough. Right at this moment, a white-robed old man suddenly appeared within the main hall. The expressions of everyone present changed when they saw this person. The man in black robes bowed deeply to the white-robed old man. Senior. The white-robed old man was the guardian of Kuraki Academy who'd headed to Jiang Country to kill that mysterious woman. It wasn't the Pine Prefecture's Kuraki Academy, it was the guardian of Kuraki Academy from the Central Divine Prefecture. He was an expert above the peak of the Myriad Dao realm. The white-robed old man glanced indifferently at Chu Zhaotian. We'll deal with the people standing behind Yi Xian. If your Chu Kingdom and Tang Kingdom conquer the Jiang Country and kill Yi Xian, then my Kuraki Academy will reward you handsomely in the future. Chu Zhaotian remained silent for a long time. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, Let's do it. The white-robed old man nodded and vanished from within the hall. Great Cloud Realm, Kuraki Academy. Before Righteous Hall. The white-robed old man gazed silently at the leaf sword above Righteous Hall. The dean of Kuraki Academy, Mu Qingxian, was standing behind the white-robed old man. Mu Qingxian hesitated for a moment before he said, "That's truly too risky. Why don't we stop?" The white-robed old man shook his head. "We can't stop. The dean of Tsanglan Academy is dead, so that young man won't let us off. With that young man's natural talent, he'll probably become a sword immortal in the future. Kneel and apologize to him? My Kuraki Academy would rather die standing than kneel and live. Since she said that we can't bully the weak, then let's change the method." Mu Qingxian sighed softly. "I'll go to Great Cloud Empire to seek an audience with that King Kaoshan. Since we're going to do it, let's do it to the extreme." The white-robed old man nodded. Do it to the extreme. One day later, 60,000 silver-armored cavalry of the Chu Kingdom suddenly headed north. 120,000 spear infantry of the Yu Kingdom suddenly gathered. At the same time, outside Two Realms City, 100,000 black-armored cavalry arrived. In the Ning Kingdom's imperial palace, Tuoba Yen expressionlessly looked at the great cloud granary wood token in front of her. Not far from her stood a black-robed man. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.